Could I have your attention, please? I'd like to call the meeting to order, and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board meeting for May 16th, 2011. The first matter on the agenda is the approval of the April 21st, 2011 minutes. Any of the board members have any corrections or comments on those minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the April 21st, 2011 minutes as presented.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, that motion carries. Excuse me. This evening, we do have 3 public hearings on. If I can just get a show of hands to find out who's here on which plans. The first one is a public hearing on Middlesex Edward Streets for the Walgreens. Who's present for that one, if I could? Okay. The next matter is on a site plan for Stedman Street. Can I see who's present on that one? Okay, thank you. The third one is a proposed zoning amendment on 550 Bridge Street. Okay, good. And the other one is under old business. I know that we have the majority of the people appears to be is for the Stedman Street one, so I'd like to try to start with that one if there's no objections to the board matters. So can we please hear first for the site plan review on 50 Stedman Street, please? Can we hear from the applicant? Is anybody here for the Stedman Street project?
Stedman Street?
We're just here for the applicant? You on behalf of the applicant? No.
Can't be too important.
Does planning development, has Aaron, from anybody from planning development had any communication with the people from Stedman Street? I know it was before the Conservation Commission, as you indicated in your notes to us.
Yes.
That they were going to continue it to follow up on more information because they started, it looks like they had a hearing at the Conservation on April 22nd, and then they were going to continue it to May 25th. And then they were going to come in with a new set of plans before us for tonight, and then the Conservation matter was going to take it up at a future date. Do you know why they're not here, or any communication at all? Or?
We don't typically follow up with the applicant to make sure that they're going to make the meeting that they were scheduled for, so we didn't call them today, but basically that they were on the Conservation Commission this past Wednesday, where it was continued, and the reason for the continuance was to address a change or an alteration in the site plan where cars, a proposed parking area for about 8 to 10 cars was going to be relocated on the site. So the Conservation Commission wanted to see the updated plans and how that would impact the wetland area. So the applicant just procedurally would have needed to have the item continued before the planning board, because the Conservation Commission needs to make a decision before the planning board can make a decision. So what I don't know is if they have an updated plan anyway for review. It's been less than a week for them to update their plan, so I don't know if that's available even. We haven't received that either.
Okay, well, I'll read the public hearing and see maybe if they're coming in late, and then we'll see what happens from there. So, this is a site plan review for 50 Stedman Street. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Macon Patel on behalf of Boskowska with Sher Oski Hodam Sansas, PAPS. It's a site plan review for a project in the located address. The applicant proposes expanding an existing parking lot by 51 tandem spaces using porous asphalt to cover an existing gravel lot. The parcel is located in the light industrial zoning district and covers 125,411 square feet. Anybody here for the applicant? Yeah, let me think. Hearing none. Can you check to see if there's anybody out in the hall there for Stedman Street, by any chance? No? Thank you. So the Conservation has continued theirs over.
That's correct.
Right. Surprised someone's not here from the applicant, but So I don't know, that's why I asked if you had any communication with your office, whether they were asking for continuance or anything, or,
No,
but having none?
nothing formal, or any phone calls.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just wondering if, given the fact that they were positioned after, after the Walgreens proposal on the agenda, if they thought they had a little more time to get down here, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Well, at a minimum, it appears there are a number of people here to speak on the matter, that I presume in opposition. And it looks like the matter before Conservation has been delayed, and they're going to be coming in with a full revised set plan, so maybe it would make sense. I don't know if they presume that it would be continued just by virtue of the fact that Conservation meeting is continued. So perhaps I'd suggest that we continue this, rather than have, the people that are here wait in futility.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
Do you want to make that in the form of a motion, then?
That as a motion, that be continued to our next regular meeting.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Discussion? No? Okay, so what we didn't do, since they're not here, and maybe they had concerns due to the fact that they were before the Conservation Board, and they were told that they have to complete their hearing at the Conservation Board before they come before the Planning Board. So what we're going to do at this point in time, we will continue to the June 6th meeting, and we'll let them, Aaron, you can notify them? Yes, Counselor? Okay. Just state your name for the record, if you would, please, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Kevin Murphy, 63 Newbury Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. We're not, I represent one of the abutters to the proposal. They're really not opposed to the proposal. What we're looking for is some type of fencing along the boundary of the line. I just ask, with the indulgence of the board, maybe if you made the continuance conditioned upon the meeting with, I know there's another neighbor here who is in a abutter, maybe meeting with us to discuss some type of boundary, either fencing or landscaping or something before the next meeting. Maybe we can resolve some of those issues.
Yep, I think that would be fine. They know how to get in touch with the abutters, so
Would you be willing to amend your motion to that effect?
would that the
second be
applicant
willing
meet
to
with the
make it?
abutters,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
discuss the fencing issues.
Thank you very much.
So we will continue to 6 for the next public hearing, and we'll notify the applicant that the motion was made and seconded and approved to meet with the abutters who have some concerns with the site, and hopefully they can work out some of the concerns they have before the next meeting. So I apologize for those who came down this evening. We were in the impression this matter would be going forward as well. So in regards to the 57th Street, we will continue that to our June 6th public hearing meeting. Thank you very much.
That's my position. Gee.
If we could hear on the next matter, if I could do the proposed zoning amendment for 550 Bridge Street. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, the Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to the ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, respect to Chapter 290, hereof entitled zoning. The amendment would extend the adjacent traditional mixed-use zone district to include the located area of 550 Bridge Street, which is currently within the neighborhood business zoning district. When we hear from the applicant, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm James Hall, 25 Fletcher Street in Chelmsford, and I represent Bridge Street Holdings, the owner of the parcel at 550 Bridge Street. We've worked to get to this point with the City Solicitor's Office and the Planning and Development Office to construct, as the board probably can see, a digital credit union branch of 5,000 square feet and a 1,200 square foot Dunkin' Donut location. We're here because we could do everything we want to do in the neighborhood business district, but we can't do a drive-up for a bank. We're not looking, nor does the district allow for a drive-up for fast food or Dunkin' Donuts, but this will permit the bank to have a drive-up window. I can't speak for the city or the neighborhood, but I think they're very pleased with this and glad to see that this hole in the ground that's been there for 15 to 20 years will be developed in a very fine fashion. And that's really the substance of it.
Is this the old Shell gas station?
Yes, it is, yes.
The Murna's Falls place.
Across from St. Michael's Rectory.
Across from the old Murphy and Callahan drugstore, right?
Well, some of us remember the dairy farms. That's a lot further back than you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll stay with the Shell station.
Mr. Lockhart probably remembers the dairy farm.
Every day I go by there. Oh, yeah.
Mr. Maloney, yeah.
Mr. Hall, does anybody else on behalf of the applicant want to speak in regards to the zone change?
I have Mr. Hammer here. He's welcome to answer any questions that the board has, but not necessary to speak unless he wants to, or unless the board would like him to speak.
Sure. I mean, if he wants to add something,
All
he's
right.
more than welcome,
Step up.
since you brought him down here this evening.
Good evening. I would like to say,
State your name for the record, please,
for the
sir.
record, my name is Matt Hammer. I'm with Hancock Associates. We've been working with the planning department and the neighborhood association with this project for about a year now. So I think you're going to find that there's been a lot of communication between the applicant and the neighborhood association, as well as the neighborhood association with the planning department. So we've come up with a concept plan and a development plan that's been suitable to everyone thus far. So I'd just like to add that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Is that it there?
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Does anybody want to speak in favor of the zone change?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Lowell Planning Board, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. Wish to be recorded in favor of this. This is an issue of neighborhood character, and it is a very good win-win situation, not only for the neighborhood, but for the city at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? That portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. This time I'll turn it over to any of the board members who have any questions, comments, or concerns.
I have a comment, and I'll make a motion. I drive by this site every day and have looked at it for at least 15 years, and what I see in front of me is a great improvement to Bridge Street. We've had a lot of new things come in the neighborhood along that stretch, and this just adds to that. So I would make a motion that we approve the extension of the traditional mixed-use zone to include the lot located at 550 Bridge Street.
Any other board members have any comments, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if I'll second the motion. I would like to, obviously extending the zone doesn't require this particular project to go on the site, but if council would indulge me for just a second, because I know one of the issues we had with the prior proposal and the rezone, and then we had some controversy with trying to make drive-throughs available for neighborhood business, and it was all really to try to address this site. So this seems to be like a solution to a difficult issue we had out there. But I know it appears to be, and it's hard to tell from the photos, and I don't know if you assume, if you're going to come before us for a pre-application hearing as well, but how this will sit on the site, one of the issues was the other project was a little bit more vehicular-oriented, and I think from what I can see, this appears to be a compromise of the neighborhood business flavor but changing the zone to accommodate the drive-through. So if you could just expand just a little bit on that, I'd appreciate it. Even for anybody listening in, I think would be very much interested.
We'll be back, if this is approved by the planning board and go to the city council and they vote their approval, we'll be back on June 20th with a site plan, which will pretty much look like this site plan.
Right along.
Okay.
Giving some tweaking, Sienna's still working a little bit on it, but pretty much what the neighborhood and what the city wanted. The building is out front, we wanted it out back.
Right.
We wanted to have a gas station and a drive-through Dunkin' Donuts drive-up. We don't have the Dunkin' Donuts drive-up, we don't have the gas station, but we have the bank. So it really was a win-win situation where the neighborhood, they stuck in their heels, the city did. we were able to find a great tenant for that location. We're able to still provide service for Dunkin' Donuts, and the traffic, we don't have that fast food line going out on West Sixth Street, which really, I think, bothered this board the last time we were here, and bothered the neighbors, if you remember. They came down in droves about the fast food drive-up pouring onto West Sixth. That won't happen. There will be an ingress and egress off Bridge Street and off West Sixth, but the bank actually goes around back onto Bridge Street, I believe. So everything, all the complaints were incorporated into this plan. We solved them. The neighborhood was very, very pleased, and I think the Planning and Development Office could, if Aaron wants to speak, I think they're very pleased with this development, as my client is too.
And it was a good, I think we ended up addressing the conundrum we had with the drive-throughs, and that was a very touchy subject because it could have had ramifications throughout the city just to address one particular site. So I think this personally is a win-win situation, so.
There was some artful zoning changes previous to this that would allow a drive-up for a retail operation, but not for fast food, somewhat directed to this parcel because the neighbors really did not want to see a drive-up for fast food. So we're restricted from that, but we can service the bank, which I think is a win for everyone.
Good, thank you.
Any other board members have any
Yeah,
discussion?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Attorney Hall, you say you did meet with the neighborhood group to discuss this plan?
I didn't personally, but I think Mr. Hammer and my client and met with Aaron. Do you want to come with that?
Good evening, yes. We met with the Neighborhood Association on 3 occasions, actually. So we met once in a couple times in the Planning and Development Office, as well as down at their local neighborhood establishment.
Okay.
At the, I forget the name of the organization where it's,
East End Club or
what's that?
Was it the East End Club?
It wasn't at the East End Club, it was the other,
Polsky, maybe?
Don Polsky Club.
Okay, on Polsky Club.
It surprises me that nobody's here. If they were in favor of the proposal, knowing the Centerville Neighborhood Organization, it surprises me that nobody's come here to speak in support if they were satisfied.
Yeah, our contact to the association, we notified them last week that we're going to be here this evening and in the upcoming meetings that are ahead of us, so.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Do
I
you
said,
remember who that was?
Yeah, that was Hank Blake, actually.
Who?
This gentleman named Hank Blake, who's been coordinating with Anne Marie and us to coordinate some of the meetings, so we did contact him last week. So, but I can say that all of those conversations and interactions with the neighborhood association were all positive for this project.
Mr. General, I might be able to add some context to that. The third Monday meet is the same night that the Centerville Neighborhood Action Group holds their meeting, monthly meeting. So they're at their own meeting at this moment. I know that they would have liked to participate in this, but we notified them that there'd be another opportunity through the city council when they have their public hearing to at least comment on the zone change request. But then also, if it does go through, if there's approval, that they would have an opportunity through site plan approval and also a zoning board special permit for at least the drive-through. So the reason they're not here is because of that meeting.
So, okay, thank you, Aaron. Further question. So I apologize. I guess this got added to the agenda after you mailed it out?
It was just remiss on our part to get it on the agenda. It was, the publication was published in the Lowell Sign a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
But we just forgot to add it to the agenda, so we had to provide an
I see.
update.
So I'm sure I got your email, but I obviously didn't give it the attention it deserved because I didn't see it until just now. So I'm a little surprised. I would have called Anne Marie myself to get her input on this prior to coming down, had I known it was coming up. So my concern here is, this does seem like a great compromise for the situation there, but my concern is that we're changing the zoning to traditional mixed use, which would open the door for an establishment like we had that was opposed previously. Isn't that true, Aaron?
Well, I'm going to go back to a time that was before my employment at the city of Lowell, but my understanding is what the two major issues with the previous proposal was that there was a proposal for a gas station and then a drive-through for Dunkin' Donuts at the very least, a drive-through for a Dunkin' Donuts or any kind of food establishment is not allowed in the traditional mixed-use zoning district. A drive-through for a bank or pharmacy is allowed with a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This is kind of based on the compromise that's been discussed already. The original zoning amendment that was promulgated, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, allowed drive-through for banks and pharmacies in the neighborhood business district. So what basically the long and the short of it is the outcome is that it was that use type was allowed for traditional mixed-use districts as well as regional retail and some of the other more vehicle-centric kind of zoning districts that we have. But by changing it to be allowed in the traditional mixed use and not allowing it in the neighborhood business district, it required a map change for this particular site for the applicant to achieve what they're trying to achieve for the bank.
Okay.
I don't know if that's-
So to net that out, you're saying that in a traditional mixed use, it's not allowed to have a drive-through for a Dunkin' Donuts or a McDonald's or some other fast food chain?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Did you want to add to that, Mr. Hall? I know you came rushed to the podium when
No,
I raised that question. I thought you had something to say.
It's nothing really, but it's really just for this parcel. We're not changing all the traditional mixed-use uses in the city or the neighborhood uses. We're just extending the TMU one more parcel, and we're going to put this on it. So I think it would exclude any other types of development you're worrying about. And Aaron is correct, there's no fast food drive-ups in this district. So we need a special permit from this board, even for the bank, to move forward. So we could have built it without a drive-up window in neighborhood business without coming here, but they're really here because they would not come to Centerville without the drive-up. All of their branches have drive-up facilities. So that's all we're doing is really letting this parcel, which stood on its own today, have a drive-up window tomorrow. That's really a very simple thing, just this parcel, no other parcel.
Right, I understand. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Claremont, any questions, concerns?
No, I would support it. It's an extension of the existing TMU zone, so I think it's a good fit. So I would certainly support it.
So we had a motion on the floor by Mr. Lockhart and second by Mr. Fischett. So all in favor of the motion to recommend the approval to go before the city council for public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All in anybody in opposition? The chair votes yes in favor. So this matter, for anybody who's following this proposal, from here, the planning board just gives a recommendation for zoning change. From here, there will be a public hearing before the city council for this zoning change. Council, do you know the date on that already before the council?
I don't think we have a date yet, Mr. Chairman,
All
but
right.
hopefully before June 20th,
Okay,
when we're
so
back
that will
here.
be publicized, and it'll be before the city council for the zone change. So that motion carries that the board recommends favor of the zone change. Thank you,
Thank you
Council.
very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, we're back to the site plan review and definitive subdivision of the Walgreens on Middlesex/Edward Street. The Lowell public hearing will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an application by Kaufman Realty, Inc. for site plan review and definitive subdivision for a parcel located at the above listed address. The proposal includes the demolition of an existing building and structures located along the current alignment of Edward Street, the construction of a 14,820 square foot Walgreens pharmacy, and relocation of Edward Street. The development project will be located on a 68,067 square foot lot and includes 30 parking spaces, a drive-through window, and includes access from Middlesex and Edward Street. The applicant is seeking a site plan review under section 11.4 of the zoning code and a definitive subdivision approval. The parcel is located in the regional retail zoning district. May we hear the case for the applicant, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 549 Rogers Street, Lowell, representing the developer Kaufman Realty, Inc. I'd just like to pass this handout to you. With me tonight are Mike and Jeff Kaufman from the developer, Jeff Dirk, who's our traffic engineer, who's sitting here, Josh Swirling, who is our civil engineer, who's here, and Steve Mosier, who's our architect. I think this board is fairly familiar with this project, and what I'm going to do is just give you a quick overview of what we intend to present. As the notice said, we're in front of you tonight for the approval of a definitive subdivision plan, which is really for the relocation of the existing Edward Street. We're also before you for site plan approval for the construction of the new Walgreens store, which consists of approximately 14,820 square feet. The property is located in an RR regional retail district and a retail operation in excess of 5,000 square feet is a permissive use. The site consists of the following properties: 10 Edward Street, 16 Edward Street, 19 Edward Street, 35 Edward Street, 1745 Middlesex Street, 1747 Middlesex Street, 1767 Middlesex Street, and 1769 Middlesex Street. The definitive subdivision is to break those properties into 3 lots. One is shown as, it'll be shown on the plan as Lot A, which is 68057, which is for the Walgreens. The other is shown as relocated Edward Street, which is 16,479 square feet, which is for the new roadway. And the last one is shown as map 45, plat 35, which is 5,510 square feet, which is the existing home of Mr. and Mrs. LeBlanc. In addition to this board, we also would appear in front of the Board of Appeals for the approval of a drive-through. As part of the submission, we're asking for 4 waivers as far as Edward Street is concerned. Under section 4A1D, there's a provision that street jogs at intersections with centerline offsets of less than 125 feet should be avoided. Well, I think you're all familiar with the neighborhood, and with the new Edward Street, we're not 125 feet away from Cornell Street, and so we need that. We would request that waiver. Section 4A1E pertains to minimum center line on curved streets. Our radius at the top of the relocated Edward Street is less than 125 feet. Section 4A1G pertains to property line radiuses at street intersections. Our plan shows at the end of Edward Street, we come straight into Middlesex Street, although I think our engineer is working on a new plan, so we might not need this waiver, and he'll explain that. And the last one is section 4A3B, which provides for a cul-de-sac at closed-end streets, but in this situation, the relocated Edward Street will run right into the parking lot for the soccer field, so I don't see any need for a cul-de-sac. I've also submitted, for the record, and I've given you excuse me, gentlemen, copies, the decision of the Conservation Commission on our request for determination of applicability. As you can see, the Conservation Commission said that this piece was not subject to their jurisdiction. I've given you a copy of the order of City Council regarding the abandonment, which wouldn't take place anyways until the new Edward Street is constructed. I've also presented to you a petition signed by 24 business owners along the Middlesex Street corridor in support of this project, and I've also given for your follow an analysis we did back in January of the Butter did, as a matter of fact, in January of 2010, showing the additional taxes to the city of Lowell in the event that this project is approved. My client has met with the neighborhood association to discuss this project and is willing to incorporate some of the suggestions in the plan. Our traffic engineer has also met with the city's traffic engineer last week to discuss the traffic report. And there is just one area that I think we're going to have to discuss further. On the original submission, the drainage was shown to be in a retention pond, above-ground retention pond, located northerly of the site. This would have involved obtaining an easement from the city of Lowell to do this. And in reading the city engineer's comments, she has requested that we move that and put it back on site. So we're in the process of redesigning the drainage, which should be done probably within the week, and we will submit a new drainage plan to the city of Lowell. We would, however, if this project is approved with our drainage plan, like to be able to petition the city for an easement at a later date, because I think it's everybody's opinion that this above-ground retention plan might be better for everybody because it would provide for drainage off Edward Street. So, but we are going to have the drainage redone and present it to this board. So at this time, I'd like to turn the matter over to our experts, and I first want to give it to our civil engineer, who is Josh Swirling, who will go over the plan.
Hi, members of the board. My name is Josh Swirling with Buller Engineering, professional engineer. We prepared the plans that are before you. Just to walk through some of the elements that Attorney Flood had pointed out, the building itself, the 14,800 square foot Walgreens, is located in the middle of the site. The drive-through is located to the east side right here. The front entrance to the building is located here. Relocated Edward Street is here. You can make out the former limits of Edwards right through there. As mentioned, this parcel will include roughly 1.6 acres of land. There's 61 proposed parking spaces here. The on-site improvements include providing for loading facilities to the rear of the store. The parking surrounds the perimeter of the site, as you can see. We've provided ample interior and perimeter landscaping in accordance with the bylaw. The driveways are proposed to be a right-in, right-out off of Middlesex here, and then two full movement driveways, one here, at the intersection of the relocated Edwards. The site lighting will be shoebox-style downward directed fixtures to contain lighting on site. The 35 Edward Street is to remain is located right here. Soccer field parking is located here, and the soccer fields would be just due north of the site there. To our west is state-owned land in Rourke Bridge. To our east is additional commercial development. And one item that I wanted to, this is a composite plan that includes our landscaping on top of the site plan that was, everything that was submitted with the plans. It's just a colorized version of what was submitted. The number of trees exceed those that are required. Shrubs, there's roughly 90 shrubs proposed here. There's some ornamental lighting proposed along Edwards. The comment relative to drainage, I just want to clarify that for you. We have been proposing an at-grade detention basin back here, but we're also proposing an underground detention basin for Walgreens, the site proper, which is located just to the east of the building there. While you may see that there is an outlet structure, a flared end pipe from the site that leads to that at-grade detention basin, The purpose of that basin is to take the runoff associated with Edwards, which we hope to, at some point, be turned over to the city, as well as sheet flow associated with the paved parking area for the soccer fields themselves, as well as a little bit of sheet flow from the Edwards house. So when we talk about those drainage improvements, it's really city drainage. It's not our drainage that we're putting onto city land. We could have our design such that there's no piped connection to that basin. But we do need to do something with the city's drainage in that area and the drainage associated with Edwards Street. So we'll continue to work with staff and the city engineer relative to the most appropriate way to handle that, but we were also hoping to receive some feedback from this board tonight relative to adequacy of having city drainage on city land. There was a concern from, and rightfully so, there was a concern from the city engineer after we had met with her relative to this area being used. It's right now a gravel area. I don't know if you're all familiar with the parking for the soccer fields, but there's a portion that's paved, and then just beyond the paved area, it looks like somebody expanded to provide a little additional parking. It's a gravel area, and that's the area that we're talking about here is being converted to at-grade detention. In terms of other improvements,
Excuse me, so could I just, can you clarify, you're taking a portion of the land that's, your proposal is to take a portion of the land that's now being used for Edward Street parking and using it for retention?
Yes, currently the existing small depressed area that's back there is known to have problems in terms of its capacity. So what we were proposing to do was increase the depth, the size, the capacity of the depressed area, the lower area, in that area to improve the conditions that we understand are there's currently some problems with today. And again, the areas that sheet flow to that area are owned by the city as well as in a butter right here.
Yeah, would that prohibit parking on that area?
If we, in this area, yes, it would preclude parking. It's roughly a 7-foot deep depression that's being proposed, just digging out the area. We could look at other options, but we would want to keep the city's drainage separate from the Walgreens drainage for obvious reasons.
Okay.
Water within Edwards will be relocated. There was a request to extend water to the snack shack for the soccer fields. I believe that the Kaufmans have agreed. I know that the Kaufmans have agreed to extend water to the snack shack. The site, our Walgreens, will be serviced by the sewer that currently exists within Middlesex. We understand there to be adequate capacity. And there's also gas, electric, telephone available for the Walgreens development. At this point, I'll turn it over to the traffic engineer unless there's any questions related to site.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Jeffrey Dirk. I'm the vice president with Vanessa & Associates, and we're the traffic engineers on the project. We have a short PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to go through. It'll be brief. I also have some handouts of the presentation and some better concept plans. So you'll be able to look at some of the areas we talked about last time, looking at where the existing curb line is and where the proposed curb line is. You'll be able to see it a little bit better on these handouts.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we prepared a full traffic study for the project. It's actually the second full traffic study that's done for the development. The first one was done in 2007. We since went back and updated all of the traffic counts and analyses that were in that study, and I presented that information to you at the conceptual hearing that we had on the project. Let's see if I can advance the slides here.
Never works right. There we go.
So, Mr. Chairman, the site shown, it's just going to show up on the grid. The site's shown in the box there. My laser pointer won't work on the screen there, but you can see the site, the Rourke Bridge clearly indicated with the bridge over the Merrimack River there. So the site is roughly in the center of what you see there. In terms of traffic volumes, as I had mentioned, we did some updated traffic counts in the area, and these traffic counts were done actually in January of last year. They were adjusted to average month conditions, and I had presented these numbers to you before, but just in terms of context, the Rourke Bridge has about 30,000 vehicles per day going over it, two-way traffic. Middlesex Street, right in the vicinity of the project site, has about 21,000 vehicles per day, again, two-way traffic over 24 hours. Now, that in context, the amount of traffic we're talking about being generated by the project, two-way traffic from the project on an average weekday, we're going to add about 982 vehicle trips, 461 in, 461 out. That's total new traffic. During the peak traffic volume hours, so when the traffic is at the highest level on the roadway, in the morning it's not a high traffic generator, it'll add about 30 additional vehicles to the roadway. During the evening commuter peak hour, between 4 and 6 in the evening, we expect it'll add about 129 new vehicle trips, again, two-way traffic. And then on a Saturday, the highest traffic volume hour between 11 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, we expect it'll add about 159 additional new vehicle trips, again, two-way traffic. The focus of the analysis that we really did, we're looking at several things. We're looking at traffic volumes, both the existing and the new, and what the impacts on the project will be. We're looking at safety for pedestrians and bicycles. We're looking at public transportation access to the project site. And then in particular at this location, we're looking at the two residential streets opposite the project, Cornell Street in this area here, and then Columbia Street, which shows up just in this area here off the project site. So we have Cornell Street here and Columbia Street in this area here. And of course, this is the intersection with the Rourke Bridge here, Wood Street to the south of the intersection here. So we're looking at safety at all those locations, traffic volumes, and how they're used by pedestrians and bicycles. Just putting all of that in context, pedestrians and bicycles, there's no formal bicycle facilities, but we do have sidewalks on both sides of Middlesex Street. There's a sidewalk along the west side of the Rourke Bridge as well as along Wood Street, so that's the pedestrian access in the area. When we talk about the improvements, I'll show you how we're addressing pedestrian accessibility in the area. Bus service, the Lowell Regional Transit Authority has one bus that runs past the site. It's Route 17. It is a bus stop on the southwest corner of the intersection. We look at the concept plans, you'll see how we've been adding sidewalks and crosswalks to be able to get the pedestrians from the bus stop over into the project site itself. The residential neighborhood streets, we did do traffic counts at those locations. We talk about, again, the concept plan. We're showing how we're providing connectivity from these residential neighborhoods to the project site, as well as to the Edward Street field. It's an additional important amenity that we're providing, that linkage, not just to the site, but also to the field areas themselves. In terms of safety, we did look at motor vehicle crash history, and as you're very well aware, this intersection with the Rourke Bridge is listed as the second highest crash location in the northern Middlesex Council of Governments area. And so when we talked about the improvements, and we discussed last time, a lot of the improvements, or the specific focus of the improvements, not only to accommodate the project's traffic, but also to address those safety issues that we found at that intersection itself. So now we'll talk about the improvement plan. There's been a lot of changes that have been made since the last time we were here before you to address not only the questions that you had and the concerns that were raised, but also we've since had the opportunity of having a peer review done by the city traffic engineer as well as an outside review consultant. And so we've taken those comments and addressed those as a part of the updated concept plan that we've done, both looking at the site itself and how circulation works, specifically looking at the access points of the property. We spent a lot of time talking about the Middlesex Street driveway and how that would work, as well as the driveways on Edward Street, and in particular the southernmost driveway that's the closest to Middlesex Street. Part of the handout I have, the larger size plans that I presented to you, they'll be a lot clearer than what's shown on the slide here. And what I did do on that, the first page of the larger set of plans, in yellow highlighter, I've highlighted where the existing curb line is on Middlesex Street. The plans were difficult to read the last time we were here in terms of understanding where the widening was actually taking place. So I've highlighted the existing curb line, and right in the middle of where that highlight is, you'll see a black line. That's the existing curb line. In terms of the refinements, the improvements that we've made, we have extended the widening that was going to take place on Middlesex Street past the project site itself. So what you see in that highlighted area is in the location here, which is closest to where the Middlesex Street driveway is, we're actually moving that curb line about 5 to 6 feet into the project site. Excuse me, so it's a significant widening. The reason we're doing that is for two things. The first is, as you may have recalled from the last meeting, we're extending this left turn lane so that there's more room to stack cars as it approaches the intersection, so that we don't have traffic spilling out in the through travel lane, which allows us to get more traffic up to the intersection and process it by the traffic signal, so we can reduce the amount of backups that are happening. The additional widening that we have done is for another reason, to accommodate the free right turn over the Rourke Bridge. One of the things that we did do in the initial plan, we did widen, but what it did do is it reduced the distance that free right turn was able to happen. So we went back and did some additional widening. So what we've actually done is extended the right turn lane to go over the Rourke Bridge some distance past the project's driveway here. So now that free right turn actually extends the same distance as the new left turn lane that we'll be extending as well, so that allows, when queuing is happening at the intersection, people will still be able to get by that queue and make the free right turn over the bridge, so that, again, what it does is it shortens the distance queuing would happen along Middlesex Street. Sticking with the project site in Edward Street itself, one of the waivers we had requested, as Attorney Flood had mentioned, is the offset between the intersection with Cornell Street and where relocated Edward Street will be. That offset is somewhere around 20 to 25 feet. That was done purposely so that as people are coming down Cornell Street, this does not look like it's a straight shot to get to either the project or up to the field, so that as you're looking down the street, it's not conducive to cut-through traffic. So that was one of the reasons that offset does take place. Now, that said, the offset is not significant to the point where it would create a safety issue. Motorists that are coming out of relocated Edward Street have clear sight line to motorists coming out of Cornell Street, so they can see traffic that's coming out them and make the decision as to whether it's safe to make an exiting move coming out of either one of these intersections. Edward Street, in the new plan that you see, it's been widened. So what we've done is, because one of the issues that we have with the volume of traffic on Middlesex Street is, of course, it's very difficult to get out of any of the streets along Middlesex Street. If it doesn't come out to a signalized intersection, you are going to have queuing that happens either at a driveway or any of the side streets. So what we've done to deal with the queuing at this location, you can't install a signal here. It doesn't have sufficient volume to justify the installation of a traffic signal, so we physically can't do it. Even if we were able to do it, it's too close to the intersection with the Rourke Bridge. Trying to get those two signals to operate together effectively would be very difficult to do because they're too close to each other. So to deal with the issue of the queuing, what we've done is widen the intersection out, widen Edward Street so that you have two lanes coming down to the intersection. There's separate left and right turn lanes. So that allows it to process traffic better, so that traffic can separate itself. The right turns that will operate with much less delay have their own lane. Left turners that will require more gaps in traffic to make the turn, they also have their lane. They're going to be delayed more than the right turns, so we can separate out those two movements at the intersection. It also benefits the playing fields. So when you have a soccer game that lets out and that traffic surges down to the intersection, Now, instead of one lane, it has two lanes to separate itself out into. The other thing that we've done is the turning lane, or the lane heading towards the playing fields and towards the project site, that's a 20-foot travel lane. We relocated, if you may recall, the southernmost Edward Street driveway was just about in this location here. That issue with queuing had the potential of blocking the driveway. I think we could store maybe 2 vehicles at most. So we've shifted it, so now it's about 100 feet away from the intersection. That gives us storage for about 4 or 5 vehicles before that intersection we get blocked. So the combination of moving that driveway, providing the 2 travel lanes, and having a 20-foot cross-section for the movement going northbound on Edward Street allows for traffic to come out at the back of a queue when the queuing does happen. If the queue extends past that driveway, most of the customers will actually, because they can't make this left turn coming in, will proceed up to the northern driveway just because the queue's blocking the driveway. If someone does choose to wait to make that left turn, because it's 20 feet wide, that's sufficient room for a vehicle to pass by on the right and still proceed either into the fields or into the north driveway so that it doesn't cause a bottleneck to happen at this location here. Other improvements that we've done to the project include intersection improvements, and I won't be able to show them on the slide here, but what we've done in terms of the traffic signal itself, there's a lot of upgrades that we're going to be doing at that intersection. When we looked at what was happening for the motor vehicle crashes, most of the crashes that were happening were angle-type crashes, and that's typical of someone's trying to make a left at the intersection and someone's going straight through and they collide in the intersection. In discussions with the city traffic engineer, our review of the crash records, and with the consultant as well, part of what's happening there is the phasing of the traffic signal. There's no left turn arrows, but there are what's known as a leading left turn phase. But because there's no arrow, what you see is just a green indication up there, and no one else is moving, so you can make your left turn. The problem with that is that you don't know when all of a sudden the other approach is going to go. So typically, if you have a left turn arrow, you get a green left turn arrow, it would turn to yellow so that you know it's going to change, and then it may turn to either a red arrow or back to a green indication, a circular green, so you know, okay, the traffic's coming at me, I need to yield. That's not what's happening out here. So what we'll be doing as a part of the improvements for the traffic signal is actually putting those arrow indications up. So now, as you're coming up to the intersection, if you're going to turn left, you will have a physical arrow. When it's going to transition from the green left turn arrow to a point where traffic is now going to be opposing you, that will go from a green arrow to a yellow arrow, and then all of a sudden to a circular green. So it'll be a standard changeover, so you'll have expectation of knowing, okay, now there's going to be conflicting traffic coming at me. So we'll be replacing the signal indication so that will actually happen. That will be a safety improvement at the intersection. We'll be improving all of the signs and pavement markings. Again, that'll be a significant safety improvement, as well as reconstructing all of the sidewalks and putting in new curb ramps at the intersection, and then restriping the crosswalks at the intersection itself, so that we're providing for safety of pedestrians at the intersection. On the Middlesex Street, we've talked about the westbound approach, so that's going by the project site. The eastbound approach, so this is coming at the project in this direction here. Similar type of improvements in terms of lengthening the left turn lane there. We're going to provide adequate storage so that the traffic can actually be held in the left turn pocket as opposed to spilling out into the through travel lane, restricting traffic movement along Middlesex Street. So that's an improvement in terms of capacity as well as safety. Coming over the Rourke Bridge, what we'll be doing is adding some signal indications there because of the grade of the bridge, the actual camber in the bridge that comes up. It's difficult to see some of the signal indications, so we'll be improving the signal indications, providing some additional indications so that you'll be able to see them coming over the bridge. And probably the more important thing is providing those lane use signs and pavement markings so that as you're coming over the bridge, we know it cues back. What we're going to do is provide positive guidance so that as you're coming up to the intersection, you position yourself in the correct lane. What's happening today, a lot of times, is as people come over the bridge, they finally come down to the intersection and find that they're in the wrong lane. They want to make a right turn, they're lined up in the left turn lane, so there's some weaving that takes place. By letting motorists know in advance which lane to be in to make the turning moves at the intersection, they can sort themselves out before they get down there so that the intersection will operate with more efficiency. The physical signal system itself, the actual computer that controls the intersection, will be brand new. We're going to be replacing that. We'll also be updating the vehicle detection system. So those sensors that are in the pavement that actually allow this intersection to operate efficiently, brand new. We're going to be replacing those as a part of the project itself. Focusing on the access points of the property, because we did spend a significant time specifically talking about the Middlesex Street driveway. What we've proposed, again, is a right-in, right-out driveway from Middlesex Street, so there's no left turns either coming into the site or coming out of the site. The discussion that we had centered around this driveway was how do we actually physically prohibit left turns? What are the measures that we could do? And then dealing with the issue of people who potentially want to shoot out of the driveway and get into this left turn lane to go on Wood Street. So we've introduced some new elements into the plan itself. What you see now in the driveway, unlike the previous plan, is a physical raised island there. So there's physically going to be a curbed island surrounded on all three sides by 6-inch revealed curbing. That curbing itself channelizes vehicles coming out of the site so they can't physically make a left turn to go either in or out. It's such an awkward maneuver that you're actually turning back over yourself to be able to come into the site if you wanted to do that, or come out of the site to try to make a left-hand turn. So it's physically being precluded by virtue of the raised island that's there. The raised island also allows us to protect pedestrians that are coming through past the driveway here, so there's actually a little bit of a refuge there. So you could actually stand there, be protected by curb on all sides if there happened to be a vehicle that was waiting to come out of the driveway. So it provides physical protection for pedestrians. And another important feature is it allows us to physically put signs in there. So we can physically put a sign in there that says no left turn. We're also adding a sign within the project site at this location here that tells motorists that if they want to, if their destination is Middlesex Street or Wood Street, that they're to use Edward Street. And so we're providing some guidance also to our customers internally to not use this driveway. We really want this to be something that if motorists are coming out of here, it's really to the Rourke Bridge. And that's what we're trying to provide with some signage in this area here. As you see on the slide that's here, and it's the second page in the handout, we talked about evaluating the driveway as just a right-in versus having it be the right turn out. What you see is our delivery truck. We're using, this is Walgreens delivery truck. We're using the smallest Walgreens truck that they have to service urban locations. It's what's known as a WB50. It's a small semi-tractor trailer. It's a typical vehicle that you'd see making deliveries in a downtown area here. In order for that truck to circulate within the site, it's going to be coming from Route 3, from Drum Hill. So it'll travel up from Wood Street. It'll come up and make a right turn at the intersection, and this is what's shown on the second page in the larger set of slides. So the truck comes up Wood Street, it makes a right-hand turn onto Middlesex Street, gets into the left turn pocket here that we're creating, and then turns left, it goes down Edward Street, it comes into the back of the site here at the northern driveway. The truck will progress back past the back of the building, it actually backs into or maneuvers into the loading dock area here. And then they offload. It's actually pallets that come off and they offload those into the store. We've shown on the slide there that that truck fits within the loading dock area here. It does not impede circulation around the building, so the truck can actually be stopped here and offload product, and you still have over 20 feet of traveled way behind the building. The truck then proceeds around the building in a counterclockwise direction. It needs to exit by way of this driveway. The truck cannot, that large truck cannot circumnavigate the building, so it cannot come back out Edward Street. It needs to come out by way of the Middlesex Street driveway, and then it will proceed back onto Middlesex Street. The truck will be coming at off-peak hours, and that's a commitment that we have as a part of the project, so that what it will be able to do is when it comes out, it will get into the left turn lane, and then it will proceed south along Wood Street to get back onto Route 3A, Route 3. That is the only circulation pattern that works for the site in terms of that large tractor trailer truck. And again, Walgreens will be using a smaller size delivery vehicle that's typical of urban areas. So that's one of the primary reasons why we need to maintain this access, because that's the only way that that truck can actually get in and out of the site. Now, the other thing that we looked at is safety on that driveway. If somebody does come out of there and they decide that they want to make a left-hand turn coming out of there, is there a specific safety issue relating to it? And there's not in terms of the design of the driveway. If someone was to do that, there are adequate sight lines so that it could be done if somebody chose to do that, but we've designed the driveway so that it's physically precluding it. The next set of slides that you see in the larger handout that you have, they show various types of vehicles going around the site. Probably the most important is the fire truck. So we ran the city fire truck, the ladder truck, around the site, and that's what's shown on the, I believe it's the third slide that you've got. So the fire truck would be coming down Middlesex Street from the east, so it's traveling westbound. It makes the right-hand turn onto Edward Street, and then you see with the fire truck, it actually can circumnavigate the building, come out either Edward Street, or it can come out onto Middlesex Street. So it can go around the building and it can exit in either direction. In terms of the site circulation, the modifications that we made are primarily around the east side of the building. What you see, we used to have two-way flow in that area there. That created some potential conflicts with vehicles exiting the drive-through, with vehicles that are either entering or exiting the project site. We've simplified all of that to just have a one-way northbound directional flow. We've changed the parking to angled parking along that side to reflect it. So basically what you have is you have two-way flow from this point here all the way around the building. You have one-way flow in the northbound direction area in this area here. And then as you're coming out of the drive-through, we've added an island here so that what you do is that vehicle coming out of the drive-through is actually channelized. It stops, then it merges with the traffic that's traveling northbound, comes up to a stop sign here, and then it can exit the site or go around the building. So we've cleaned up circulation along that side of the building to make it more standard and eliminating a lot of the conflicts that were happening in that area there. Just in terms of where we're headed, we did have the opportunity to meet with the city traffic engineer last week to talk about all of the comments, the refinements to the site plan. In terms of the technical aspects of the traffic study, I don't think there were any issues relative to how much traffic the project's going to generate. The traffic counts were done, all of the mechanics that go into the traffic study. So really what we're focusing in on now is refinements to the improvements relating to the project. And a couple of the things that we're looking at, the last slide in your bigger set that you have has what I'll call a preliminary draft of what we're working on for the next version, let's say, of the concept plan. One of the specific areas we're focusing in on is this corner radius here. If you look very closely at the site plan and the first page of that larger set of plans, what you see is if you extend this property line down to intersect with the right-of-way line that's along Middlesex Street, you'll see that this corner radius extends beyond that property line. So this little triangular area here is actually over the property line. So two things either have to happen. We either need to have discussions about reconciling that area there so that that land can physically be turned over to the city, because right now it's on private property, or we modify the concept plan to take that radius and move it so that it occurs within either the public right-of-way, essentially, so that we're not impeding on private property at that corner. What you see in the last page is one of the directions that we may take, which is physically moving that radius, making it a little bit smaller so that it stays within the public right-of-way. What that does is it shifts Edward Street slightly over towards the project site. We still maintain our two travel lanes. We would lose a little bit of parking in this area here, but we can accomplish all of the requirements that we may need to do to stay away from that corner there. We will be having discussions with that property owner to see if we can implement the plan that's here. This is much preferred if we're able to do that, but we do have an alternative plan to address the issue if need be with that. And we received some comments just tonight, actually just before the public hearing, some of which are questions that I've responded to tonight in terms of the Middlesex Street driveway, why we need to have it, why it needs to be right in, right out. The majority of the comments deal with some refinements of the site plan and the offsite improvements, which we'll be addressing between now and the next public hearing. Happy to answer any questions you have now or at the end of our presentation.
Thank you.
So I'll turn it over to the project architect now.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. Name is Steve Mosier, architect with Mosier and Associates. And I believe this picture concept is what was originally submitted in the package. And I'll talk about this. This is a new design with Walgreens, a little bit different than maybe you've seen on the other store I did up on Bridge Street on the Dracut line. There's a relatively new Walgreens there. This is a new look that Walgreens would like to pursue and develop. The building is a brick, 4 sides, maintenance-free material, 14,800 square feet approximately, all non-combustible materials, fully sprinkled, fully handicap accessible, with using some environmental friendly materials, certainly highly energy efficient approaches to some of the things that we're doing on the inside. We had previously met with some of the folks in the neighborhood, and tonight we're here to get some of the board's comments and to take those 2 comments and then mold this into a project and a design that everyone's going to be happy with. Local community folks did express some of their concerns with the design. This doesn't reflect that because I wanted to stay with the application that was originally submitted. Feedback, questions, I'll be glad to answer them. No? Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else on behalf of the applicant?
I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, at this point in time, I will, before I turn it over to the public, I am just going to read a few matters that have been submitted to the board. One was given to us by Planning and Development, and a copy was also given us tonight by Mr. Attorney Flood. This is, we, the business owners of the Highland section of Lowell, express our support of the construction of the Walgreens at the intersection in Middlesex and Edward Street. And as indicated, there is 14, 18, 19. I believe there is a total of 25 people who did sign the application in favor. Most have indicated our business neighbors, and 1 or 2 of them just indicate that they are people who just own property in the neighborhood. Besides that, we also received, tonight for the record, was communication to Division of Planning and Development from Nancy Judge from the Neighborhood Association. This is, please pass this information along to the board, as there truly are not enough hours in the week to be able to attend all the necessary meetings, and I cannot attend this evening. This letter sent to you by, we have a letter, another package I will get to. Kristen Demers does state the feelings of the Middlesex Village Group. Several meetings were held by the residents and Michael Kaufman, and though we would prefer no Walgreens or establishment at that site strictly due to the traffic issues, the group and Michael Kaufman have worked together, and hopefully if all or most of the residents' concerns can be met, we welcome the project to the area. In anticipation of your consideration, I thank you sincerely, Nancy Judge, co-chair of the Highlands Neighborhood Association. Also on May 12th, we have a letter here from Kristen Demers, who indicates, dear planning board members, after attending the Middlesex Village Master Plan Neighborhood Vision session last December, held by the Northern Middlesex Council of Governments, it became clear that the residents of Middlesex Village are hoping to improve the aesthetics and safety in the area. If proper measures are taken, this Walgreens project could be the catalyst in helping the Middlesex Village retail area become a more aesthetic, pleasing, pedestrian, accessible destination. I was pleased with Kaufman Realty offered to meet with the residents in the neighborhood throughout the filing process of the proposed Walgreens development. Through these meetings, it was clear that neighbors shared similar concerns as they had at the master plan visioning screening when reviewing the design and the site plans. I believe it is all our hopes that this Walgreens becomes an asset to the neighborhood rather than another eyesore, another store that is difficult for the adjacent residential neighbors to access by foot and vehicle. The following are some recommendations residents and I have given the last meeting with Michael Kaufman of Kaufman Realty. In regards to the site plan and facade design of the building, raise the existing walkway where the pedestrian crosswalk is located within the parking lot from the sidewalk to the front of the store. Add a vegetation pedestrian refuge island on Middlesex Street near the proposed crosswalk at the Cornell Street location instead of just plain lines, or consider a raised crosswalk. If this is not possible, consider other measures such as painted triangles to alert drivers of pedestrians crossing. Add street furniture such as a bench or bike rack. Limit parking spaces to minimum requirements. Increase the amount of landscaping along the frontage. Avoid internally illuminated signs as they create glare for resident neighbors abutting the site and lack of design element. Instead, residents would like to see gooseneck lighting. Walgreens can set an example for future development by moving away from unsightly illuminated signs. Avoid any type of moving or oscillating sign as it only keeps, as it is not in keeping with the neighborhood. Neighbors would like to see a facade design that is in keeping with the existing buildings that abut the property. Materials such as clapboard or similar is preferred. Incorporate elements that create a human scale to tone down the big box look. Example, gables, different roof lines. In addition, Kaufman Realty was asked if they would be willing to fund and install a wooden or similar looking material sign to be placed on their property with the wording, "Welcome to Middlesex Village." Michael Kaufman, Kaufman Realty, seemed amenable to this suggestion. I would support a variance allowing extra storage footage for this additional sign. I hope that some of these suggestions can be incorporated into the decision and approval process. And it says, thank you, Kathy DeMars. So those are letters that we received. And at this point in time, I'll turn it over to the public, anybody who wants to speak in favor of the project.
My name is Steve Massey, 186 Humphrey in Lowell. Glad to see there's a lot of new changes to this plan, so it seems like they're listening to the residents, changing the plan for the better. Just want to make 2 points. I think it'll be good for the city, good for our tax base, as this will be a commercial property as opposed to a residential tax rate property. And I also feel that if this doesn't get approved by the city of Lowell, they'll probably just go to Chemsted. And I'm sure Chemsted would be more than glad to take this project. So I think it's a wise thing that we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in favor of the project? In favor?
Mr. Chairman, members of the planning board, ladies and gentlemen, for the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I wish to record in favor of this based on the letter that you read from Nancy Judge, and also having attended the Middlesex Village Master Plan. I think that sessions, and I think that this is going to be a win-win situation for the neighborhood and for the city. It'd be good if the Middlesex Village area does get another neighborhood group again. But I think there's going to be a lot of improvements made, and this is a good project. My only concern is that it doesn't impact the soccer fields too much, and that hopefully that there can be some agreement where the soccer fields will not be impacted by the Walgreens development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. Anyone else want to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Before I turn it over to the opposition, I should have started off to begin with. Aaron, does Division of Planning and Development have any comments before we go further on anything? I know we've digested quite a bit on comments that you've made, and I know we have several comments on the traffic situation, but I don't know if Division of Planning and Development wants to add anything before we go on further.
As Mr. Dirk had pointed out, that we had met with the applicant on Thursday or Friday of last week to review the preliminary review of the transportation mitigation measures of the updated plans that they have. However, we got plans today for the complete site plan update revision that includes the landscape plan, civil engineering, stormwater, that sort of thing, and they're still working with the city engineer on the stormwater element, so we don't have a full formal updated set of comments for the board's consideration tonight. But you know, we'll be working on that over the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point in time, anyone like to speak in opposition to the project? Anybody in opposition?
Good evening. My name is Brenda Maley. I'm a resident at 630 Princeton Boulevard, unit number 5 in Lowell. I'm also an attorney, and I have an office at 9 Middlesex Street in Lowell as well. I have not had opportunity to participate in many of the neighborhood meetings that Kaufman Realty has had with the neighborhood. I had attended some preliminary Middlesex Village meetings with our general concerns about issues in the neighborhood. I applaud the amount of work and effort that's gone into this and the unwillingness of the developer in Walgreens to meet with the neighborhood and to address some of the concerns. However, I still think that there's issues that are not going to be satisfied by even the amount of work that's been put into the plan at this point. A few of my initial concerns, although there seems to be, they've made great efforts in order to mitigate the traffic issues at that intersection, I don't see possibly how they're going to prevent people from making left-hand turns into that main driveway from the intersection. It's one thing to say we can really stay on top of people coming out of Walgreens and going right in from Middlesex Street, from the other direction, or right out of Middlesex Street. But cars coming from Middlesex Street in the other direction, cars coming from Wood Street, or cars coming from the Rourke Bridge, it would be virtually impossible once they make that turn in front of the building to prevent them all from making a left-hand turn in there, even with the islands that were described. I think people are still going to do it. I think people aren't going to understand. It's going to be very hard to have signs there because it's such a congested area. There's really not even room for many signs. Across the street, there's limited sidewalk. The sidewalks across the street are in deplorable condition. So even though they may be making adequate sidewalks on their side of the street, if somebody wanted to avoid having to cross the entrances and the exits, certainly wouldn't be able to do it on the other side because those sidewalks are really quite deplorable. Secondly, I think it's somewhat naive to think that extending the width of Middlesex Street as far down as Edward Street is going to alleviate the traffic that happens on Middlesex Street heading in the direction of Walgreens from the city. And I think that's a westerly or northerly direction. I think I've heard the directions referred to in many different ways from the 3 speakers that were up there. One referred to the easterly side of the building, and I believe that's the westerly side, but perhaps I'm confused, I'm not sure. So in any event, I'm talking about coming toward Walgreens from the city section, not coming from the intersection. The traffic on on the rush hour days, anywhere from 4 o'clock p.m. to 6 o'clock Monday through Friday, actually backs up all the way down to the next, I think it was formerly called the High S Bridge, and I'm not sure, I think it's the Virgil-Operis Bridge, if you're familiar with that. It's just on the other side of the animal shelter. The traffic backs up all the way there, and frequently the traffic is all in a line to either go straight through the intersection at Wood Street or to take a right onto the Rourke Bridge. If you wanted to take a left, there's a space and there's just no room to do that, so the traffic backs up. It's a very, very short distance that we're talking about between the intersection and even Edward Street. I was really somewhat shocked to see that the main entrance of the site is going to be that in and out driveway, the right in, right out driveway, right near the intersection. That is so very close, and I just can't envision how that is going to work as a main entrance. I could at least understand if they were attempting to use Edward Street as the main entrance, and then put the main entrance to the store closer to the Edward Street side. But by locating the main entrance to the store on the side closest to the intersection is going to invite people to use the driveway incorrectly, not the way it was designed to be used by the engineers. So, although I think there's been great attempts, I know the neighborhood they're winning the neighborhood over, and of course, we want to see improvements. Any improvement is a great thing. Increasing the tax base of the city is a great thing, but I don't think we can just overlook all of these traffic concerns. The location of that main driveway and the door is just so close to that intersection, I just don't see how it's going to work, and I don't see how putting dedicated arrow signs at the intersection or widening the street slightly down to Edward Street is really going to address any of the traffic problems in that area. I think it's just naive. And then finally, I heard the speakers for Kaufman Realty indicate that they were going to do more street markings and lane markings on the pavement. If any of you have been there, you know that any painting that goes on that street is gone within a couple of months because of the heavy traffic. So unless there's a commitment from the city of Lowell to continue and maintain the markings that will be made on the street that will be provided initially when the project goes in, they're not going to be there for any length of time after. So that's a benefit that really has a very short life. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak in opposition?
Hi, good evening. I'm Kristen Domurad of 604 Princeton Boulevard, Unit 40. I did write the letter, and I do think that they've made a great effort in trying to work with the neighborhood residents, and I do agree with some of the concerns that were just voiced. And some of the questions I actually had for the traffic engineer was if they did consider having those lines, not just lines, as I had mentioned in the letter, and I'm not sure if the city's engineer had concerns about that, if it was a positive thing, or but possibly having those raised would eliminate the need for having to constantly repaint, and also possibly provide some buffer for a pedestrian if they're going to cross the crosswalk, and have that either as a pedestrian refuge. And I'm not sure if they can speak to that now, or...
We'll ask them, okay?
Okay.
Anything else?
I actually do have a couple of images of the facade that we had provided to Kaufman Realty, and I'm not sure if I can just give you some of them.
You can step forward, yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So these, excuse me if I may, so this was
They're both Walgreens in different areas in Massachusetts.
Okay.
The top one is something that all of the residents didn't really like. It was actually a little better than that one. All the residents really did not like that for many reasons. It's not very friendly looking, and we are amongst a lot of residential homes, and it's also just lacks in style. And I think that the master plan and the Middlesex Village visioning sessions that we've had for that particular master plan really is going towards something much different than what the applicant has shown. So we're hoping to work with them and continue to create something that fits more towards our vision and more towards what the planning board has voiced in the past through their master planning efforts. And another thing too, just with the parking spaces, I wasn't sure if they had considered decreasing the parking spaces, but that was just something too that we thought would kind of help with lack of a sea of asphalt. So.
Okay. So just on your letter that I read, on your letter that I read, it'd be the last one here to incorporate the elements of the human scale and do the gables, and that's what you referred to in this picture here?
Correct. Okay. All right. So, and I guess my main concern is, you have a lot of residents on the other side of his property, and it's a single-family residential neighborhood. And we're really hoping that, along with the vehicular safety, that we'll have some pedestrian safety measures incorporated, because there's a lot of homes there and a lot of residents that would probably like to be able to walk there, but will never do it if it's continues the way it is, and if it's built the way that it's proposed. So that's all.
Let me see if anybody from the, would like to respond to a couple of your questions while you're up there, okay? I'll just
Thank
wait.
you.
Okay. Mr. Flood, I was just curious if anybody would like to respond to a couple of the issues this young lady brought up?
Well, we just got that letter, Mr. Lynn, I think it was dated May 12th, so we haven't had a chance really to meet to discuss those issues. I think it was either Thursday or Friday when we got it, so.
Okay.
But I think we will discuss those things prior to the next scheduled meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Does anybody else want to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Diane Poole. I reside at 24 Cornell Street, and it's not so much opposition as concerns. From the get-go, I have opposed this because of the traffic issues, and Kaufman Realty has really bent over backwards trying to accommodate the neighbors, and as the previous two speakers have also attested to that fact. Living directly on Cornell Street, I am hesitant to believe that just that little offset is going to make a difference. I hope I'm wrong and that it does make a difference. We don't need any more cut-through traffic on our small street. It's already difficult enough to get onto Middlesex Street if we so choose. And the other issue I have has to do with the water runoff. I seem to see a little red flag going up because they're not sure what they're going to do with that now. I already live on 24 Cornell Street on my parcel of land. It already has high water table. I'm concerned that if the water isn't diverted correctly, that the residents in my neighborhood, in my street, are going to end up with swimming pools in our basements, and we definitely do not want that. We do have water issues. If we have rainstorms occasionally, we don't need it to be made worse. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else in opposition?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. My name is Rodney Elliott. I live at 15 Cresta Drive, and I'm here tonight representing Lowell Youth Soccer. I've been involved with Lowell Youth Soccer for the last 17 years, and I'm here tonight speaking on behalf of the organization as its president. We are a league that is over 900 kids now, and we grow every year. On any given day at Lowell Youth Soccer, there's between 30 and 35 soccer games at the very least. There are 10 soccer fields on the 6-acre parcel off Edward Street. So my point is, it's a very busy time. We have 10 games. It's at least a 3-month season, twice a year, the spring and the fall. So with 900 kids comes at least 1 or 2 parents, grandparents, friends, referees, coaches, spectators. My point that I raised tonight are two. One is parking. And I came down to express the concern on behalf of the soccer organization. We have challenges. We have had challenges from day one. It is a wonderful, wonderful soccer field, soccer complex. I have to tell you, I travel throughout the Merrimack Valley and in Middlesex County, and it is one of the finest, if not the finest, soccer complexes in this area. However, parking is a concern. It's a challenge, and it is something we have tried to manage. We've tried to work with the neighborhood businesses. For a short time, when Goodwill was out of business, we had that parking available. Since that time, it has been purchased and is used as a temple. The temple has many functions, and they, quite frankly, it's their parking lot. They use the temple a lot, and we don't have access to that any longer. We've leased and we've paid rent to a local business next by a restaurant next that abuts the field, but again, they want that lot for their businesses, and unfortunately, people in the Lowell Usaka have not used the lot accordingly. So parking is a major challenge for us, and I did see on the plan tonight, there's a plan to take some of the gravel area that the city expanded from the existing lot to use as a retention pond. That is a major concern right now. That lot that we expanded, that the city expands, provided and provides much needed parking. To take any of that away is just going to exacerbate an already frustrating parking problem for parents and for people that come from out of town. We have a travel league with 400 kids, half play away on any given Saturday. That means we have visitors coming in. So that's the first issue I want to speak about. Parking. To take any parking away is not a good thing, and we clearly do not support that. Drainage, I'm not sure what the city engineer is referring to drainage. There's no drainage problem from the city land. It drains into the catch basin. There's only one time or two instances that I can remember there was a problem, and that was during both floods. So I'm not sure what the engineer is referring to by alleviating any city drainage problems. There's no drainage problems. Everything drains as planned. I know the engineer also referred to bringing water to the site. There is water. There are 2 bathrooms and a snack shack. I'm guessing you're referring to the sewer line or wastewater. I'm not sure, but there is a water line that runs down there. On traffic, I can't express any more concerns than the neighbors have, both here and at city council meetings. And adding, I heard one reference to 159 cars on a Saturday between the hours of 11 to 2 o'clock. That is also one of the peak times that we have many of our games at the soccer field. We try to stagger the times as best as we can. We're even considering moving some of the games to an alternative location to alleviate, because we continue to grow, and we want to continue to grow our soccer league and give kids in the city an opportunity. We run soccer games from 8 o'clock in the morning till almost 4 o'clock at night. Anybody that has been down there, you can see how busy it is. And it's a good busy, in my opinion. This is exactly what we want the kids of the city to do. We want to give them the opportunities to do it in the spring and the fall. There are soccer camps that are run during the summer, so the field does get used. We want it to get used. On any given night, it's used 7 nights a week. So the traffic on Saturday, adding that many cars at that particular point in time doesn't make sense. And I do appreciate, I've been to all the meetings, some of the neighborhood meetings. I appreciate the efforts that the developers are making, concessions that they have given, and the investments that they're making in both the intersection as well as the location itself. The problem is many of the cars go over the Rourke Bridge. And I don't want to rehash the issue of the Rourke Bridge, but I think Ms. Maley addressed the issue pretty good. You can make all of the, can present scenarios on traffic patterns and moving curb cuts to get vehicles into certain locations in the intersection or prevent them from going in certain patterns. But the fact of the matter is there's 21,000 cars on Middlesex Street. There's 33 cars that come over back and forth on the Rourke Bridge on any given day, and that much traffic in that area clearly leads to the fact that it's the second worst intersection in the city. So parking and traffic, just one last concern on Edward Street. you understand, if I understood you correctly, that one of the entrances, there'll be room for 4 or 5 cars to be staged. If you've been at any given time on Saturday, people are going to find the path of least resistance, and I can assure you, they will cut through the parking lot if they're going over the Rourke Bridge, and they're going to exit through that pathway, that exit on Middlesex Street. So I guess I'm speaking to those issues, and we can send out, and we send out emails to our parents or visitors as much as we can, but as it exists, I can just foresee what's going to happen. Walgreens is going to get upset. We'll be getting emails. I'll be getting complaints. So I don't know how to alleviate that particular issue. I do appreciate the fact there'll be 2 lanes. Most people do want to take a left to go one way. The other half want to go right. That'll help a little bit. But in large part, these are the concerns that I wanted to bring forward to the board and on behalf of the Soccer Association. So I thank you for the time and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Anybody else want to speak in opposition?
My name is Robert Maria, 26 Montview Avenue in Lowell. Originally, I was much more opposed to this than I am today. I want to congratulate the engineers and Mr. Flood on the homework they've done. However, I think they have a lot more homework to do. I will say that this will take a lot of blight out of the area. I think the design is nice for some locations, but not in the neighborhood where it's going. It should be much more of a residential design, and I'm sure that the architect himself has designed these type buildings in many other cities. If you drive around in other cities, you'll see Walgreens that are much more residential and not such a stark commercial building as it is. The traffic engineer did a great job. However, I think there's a lot more to be done on traffic. The stacking of 4 cars for that east entrance leaves a lot to be desired, because 4 cars is nothing. The entrance shouldn't even be in the middle there. It should be totally toward the back side of Walgreens property and no other entrance before that, unless I misunderstood him. But 4 cars stacking is nothing in this day and age. There'll probably be, at times, 10, 20, and 30 cars stacked ready to get out of there. I think with a little more improvement and a little more work, there won't be hardly any opposition. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? In opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing will be closed. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to the planning board members for any questions, comments.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Dirth, I guess I'll get right into the right in, right out. He came before us for a pre-application hearing, and we had a great deal of discussion of the issues, potential problems with that particular entrance. We had a peer review, and it was also noted that there was concerns with that entrance, and I believe the city's own traffic engineer had some concerns with that as well. Could you please indicate to all of us here on that site where a delivery truck would not be able to make a full swing around that particular location of the building and exit one of the drives onto Edward Street, please?
Once the truck comes in, coming around the building here, in order for it to make the turn, the trailer would actually off-track into the parking spaces that are here. Once it's made that maneuver, to make this turn, coming around here, and then physically make a turn to either come out this driveway or to come out this driveway, the tractor trailer, the rear wheels of that tractor trailer drive right over where this landscaping is here. Would drive right over where the landscaping is here. It can't physically make the turns to make a hard right out of the project and then come down Middlesex Street by way of either one of these driveways. So even if it was able to come by the building here, it cannot physically make the turn to get the trailer actually straight to be able to come out on Edward Street. It's physically precluded. In order to do that, to make this turn, the truck would actually have to swing wide into the building area, which it physically can't do, or the driveway itself would have to be approximately 50 feet wide in order for that trailer not to drag. Then once it made the turn, it would have to swing wide over the center line and then come back to actually get in a line to come out to the intersection here. It's not physically possible.
Did you entertain relocating that building on the site to make that work? Or redesign the building in order to make that work?
In terms of shifting the building in this direction here, in order to make enough room to be able to do that, even if we were able to do that, the trailer cannot still physically turn and get back out on the Middlesex Street by way of any of these entrances here. The physical distance that the trailer would have to do to come over here would drive right over the landscape islands. If we were able to, so if we pulled the building all the way over to the curb line here and still tried to have it come out, the driveways would have to be well in excess of 50 feet to keep the trailer on the correct side of the road.
Well, I suggest Walgreens get smaller delivery trucks, because that's going to be an issue. CVS in Drake on Broadway Road had a similar configuration. The intersection was designed exactly the same way, with a designated turn to the right, and they wanted to have a similar exit, and it didn't happen, and they weren't allowed to have it. That's a tough spot. I think you're looking at the same effects of almost a rotary type of effect as people coming out, and if they want to get on that Rourke Bridge, they're flying, and cars are queued in there waiting for the traffic to come up the Rourke Bridge. I think you've got a lot of potential conflicts at that particular site. I think one of the residents commented how you're going to get cut through traffic even to exit and go up the Rourke Bridge, and I can see that happening. You're widening the road, and you're looking at a situation where cars are going to be, I think, picking up speed coming into that to loop and come right up the Rourke Bridge. I see it all the time. So I think we paid, you paid for an independent traffic study. I think they concluded that that was a problematic location to have a entrance and exit. I think that you tried to offer some solutions, which was suggested with the curbing, but again, that's not going to change the fact that that is you're proposing really a major form of egress right at, I think, a very dubious spot in the road there. So I think at the pre-application hearing, I made that very clear. I wouldn't support any kind of an exit out there. And much to my pleasure, I saw that the independent traffic study, I think, supported that. I have tremendous concerns with having that exit in that location. And I think you really have to take a look at how you can reconfigure that, as you have another model as far as the square footage of the store. There's something that you can do. Because if you're making a presentation saying, as a board, we don't have a choice, that doesn't sit well.
Well, two things. First off, I appreciate the opportunity to have the peer review done. The comments that you had before you, I just was handed as I came in the door. So, professionally, I need to have an ability to be able to look at it and have a conversation with the reviewer, because clearly, I think all the things that you pointed out, the site plan that's before you today that we've assessed, absent the comments you've made about, taking a look at some things, cannot be serviced by a Walgreens truck without the Middlesex Street driveway. Again, in difference to your comments about going back and looking at it, we need to do that to satisfy you, to make sure we've done everything that we can to have the driveway function safely. But as it's configured today, this is the only way we can get the smallest size delivery truck Walgreens has in and out of the site.
Well, that's a problem. If I can address the architectural design because obviously we're not going to make any headway on that this evening, I can see that. And I think that's something that we're going to have to revisit. If you could bring that photograph back up on the design. And I have to say, I've seen some relatively fairly attractive-looking Walgreens, and one of the speakers provided photos with the clapboards and the siding, and I think in some of the communities, I believe in Tewksbury, they might have one that fits that look. Again, from that has almost a 1960s retro look to it, and it's certainly not, personally not what I think is fitting with the surrounding architecture, and we're looking to make an improvement with the area and how that's going to look. And now, based on, and I'm sorry, it's Mr. Moser? Yes. Correct. I believe you said there was some input from neighborhood meetings that you had as far as design. Now, did you do up anything to incorporate that?
No, I mentioned in my presentation that none of that was incorporated yet.
Okay.
That we're waiting for the input from the board, coupled with the community, and that evolution will occur, and it's a matter of certainly satisfying the board, satisfying the community folks, and also, Walgreens. So it's a balance that I'm sure I can reach.
Sure. Yeah, I again, personally, I would scrap this design completely.
Kind of heard that before.
Yeah. I think it wouldn't take much difficulty in forming some sort of consensus on that. But I think there are some fine examples of some Walgreens facilities that have gone up, and we don't consider ourselves a second-class community, nor do we consider this a second-class neighborhood. And I think we want to see the same type of design incorporated into the site. I'll be honest with you, based on what's in front of me tonight, and that mainly that right in, right out. I think I made that very clear even before, and I think we have supporting findings on that. I think that has to be looked at with a great deal of sharpen the pencil as much as you can on that, because there's no way that I can even talk about other parts of this proposal without that being addressed. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fischette. Mr. Gentleman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, first of all, I kind of feel the way a lot of the neighbors feel tonight. I think I am really not in favor of Walgreens on the site, period. I think I've stated that before at prior meetings. Due to the traffic effects, I think that this is a terrible traffic situation. And until you've, gotten off the Route 3 at the Drum Hill Rotary at 4:30 in the afternoon and tried to get to Pawtuckettville over the Rock Bridge, you really can't appreciate what that means. It's a disaster from a traffic standpoint. I'm curious why the study was done in January. What was the timing of that all about?
Sure. Traffic counts are done throughout the year. Mm-hmm. What we were required to do is that the traffic counts, when you perform them, they need to be done when school is in regular session, so that you've got colleges in session, public schools are in session. And then what we're required to do is we have to adjust those traffic counts to what's known as an average condition. Sure. So it doesn't matter when I do the counts over the year, they have to be adjusted to average so that everything's comparable. So even though the counts are done in January, they're adjusted to average, so we adjust them upwards to account for the fact that January is a low traffic month.
Right. Yeah, but that doesn't account for the kind of exceptional use of this particular area, given the fact that we have the soccer facility that's located there that would be operable in the spring and in the fall and sometimes over the summer.
That's
so
actually
I think
good.
Your averages probably
Right.
don't account for that.
So two things. The counts for Edward Street were actually done in March, towards the end of March, so it was during the spring season, but we also, early spring, we also did adjust those counts to do projections based on the number of soccer fields that the speaker had mentioned, using industry standard numbers for an estimate of if you've got 10 soccer games going on or 6 soccer games, how much traffic does that generate? And that got added into the traffic counts as well.
Okay. So, I share Mr. Frichette's concerns So anyway, let me finish on that. I feel as though that this is a poor location for a Walgreens. However, the situation we have here is the city of Lowell abandoned the street. The city of Lowell sold the land. The applicant now controls the land in that spot. I think we're faced with a situation where I'm approaching this as trying to find a way to provide the best project that we can for the neighborhood under the circumstances. The city, the time to oppose this project is when the city abandoned the street and sold the land. The city council, present company accepted, voted to do that. So now we're faced with a situation where the we have to find a way to get the best project that we can on this site. That said, so I'm approaching this in that vein. I want to try to make sure that this project, if we do approve it, will work for the neighborhood and will work for the city. This right-in, right-out exit is just a disaster. I mean, that is just it can't be. I can't see myself voting for a site plan that has that within it. I think that it's too close to this critical intersection at Wood and Middlesex. Traffic backs up beyond that point at the lightest traffic times. I went through there the other day, and traffic was backed up well beyond where the proposed exit would be at one of the lightest traffic times of the day. At the highest traffic times, it just is going to bottle things up. Even with the widened lane, I feel it's going to bottle things up beyond belief there. So I feel as though if you're really serious about this site plan, you have to come up with a configuration that's going to remove that right-in, right-out exit. And it's, Mr. Frechette mentioned relocating the building. If you don't need circular traffic around the building for people who are going to be using the building, maybe you could narrow that area behind the Walgreens so it's just for trucks. That would give you more room out front to maneuver for deliveries. And then the people using the Walgreens wouldn't necessarily have to go all the way around the site. I don't know. It's your job to come up with a plan, but the right-in, right-out just has to go, in my estimation. The other thing I was thinking about is the widening of the lane. Well, I think it's a great idea. Why not continue that further down the site, giving people the opportunity to get into a right turn lane to go over the Rourke Bridge further down the road, further down Middlesex Street. It seems to me that might alleviate some of the situations that were brought up earlier where the traffic backs up well down Middlesex Street. If there's a right turn lane there that people can access, that could really improve things. So I hope that you can consider that as well, widening that lane further down the road so that there's ability for people to access that right turn lane, right only lane earlier. I don't know if you wanted to comment on that.
Just quickly, we did extend it further, so now there is a right turn lane. As you get further beyond the property, there's not, basically the right-of-way, the public right-of-way that exists to make improvements is at the back of sidewalk or just shortly beyond that. There's no room to widen it anymore. Basically, Middlesex Street, as it exists there today, uses all of the right-of-way. You would have to acquire private property to extend it any further than what's shown.
But I'm talking even down to Edward Street.
We've taken it as far as basically that we can. Well, we can look to see if we can extend it any further than that.
So can you put your map up here?
Michael, take that down.
Or on the PowerPoint?
You're talking about extending it further down in this direction here.
Yeah, it looks like you've extended it down, about to where the proposed right-in, right-out lane is.
We have.
But I'm talking about why not continue that all the way down to where Edward Street is, so that as people come by Edward Street, they have the ability to turn.
Along the frontage of the property here are utility poles that are located within the right-of-way. We're moving at least 2 utility poles just to make the improvements that are shown here. If we take it down further in this direction here, it would probably be on the order of 4 to 5 utility poles that would have to move at about $20,000 a piece in terms of moving those. So what we've done is we've done the improvements in the area where We're gonna need to move utilities anyways. Extending it further in this direction here,
Yeah.
it substantially increases the cost associated with that. It may not be an issue in terms of what you're looking at. We can see if we can move it further. We've already extended it much further than was shown before, and this is actually an improvement over what's out there today.
Sure. I agree that that would be an improvement in the absence of the right-in, right-out lane. However, we're talking about a very serious intersection. This isn't your run-of-the-mill intersection. This is one of the most dangerous intersections in the state, where the Walgreens is going to be bringing even more traffic into that intersection. We're trying to come up with a way where we can mitigate the effects of that traffic so that it's not as much of an impact on the community. I realize it may be some more expense, I would hazard to guess what you're actually spending on this project, but I would guess that another $20,000 or $40,000 is probably a small percentage. If that is going to make a significant impact on traffic improvement, I would think it's an investment well made to mitigate the effects that you're going to be bringing to this intersection, this dangerous intersection.
We'll look at it.
So I'll let you think about that. You don't have to necessarily.
We certainly will, but I think one of the things that the Middlesex Street driveway, obviously a focus, something we have to go back and look at. You've pointed out some things in the peer review's comment letter, but I think one of the things that I don't want to have overshadowed is that if you look at your own traffic engineer's review of what we're doing there, as well as the review consultant, we're making this intersection not only addressing the safety, but we're improving the operations of that intersection.
Yes, I can appreciate that.
I just don't want that to get overlooked. Middlesex Street and that driveway there, we're going to look at it. I mean, we've heard loud and clear that that's an area that we need to focus in on for safety reasons as well as everything else. We're spending a lot of money at that intersection. I know that's not a concern of you. Your concern is safety and the motoring public and everyone that's going to use that intersection. But I don't want to lose sight of, I think that all of the traffic engineers that have looked at it have said the improvements we're doing will make that intersection safer and will make it operate better than it does today. So I just don't want that overlooked. I know we've got some work to do.
I can appreciate that. And I just think that we also have to consider the added impact that the project's bringing.
Agreed.
And, to my untrained eye, I can see that, boy, if we had that right lane that went all the way down to Edward Street, that would really help. That would really help the situation. So I hope that you'd seriously consider that as well.
We will. We'll look at that in the context of the Middlesex Street driveway as well. We'll review all of that at once.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
A couple of other things I just wanted to ask. I don't see any, obviously, that Aaron, you said you just got a landscaping plan today?
With the updated plan set, the original one did have a landscape plan, but
Okay.
It's going to be different because of the change in the layout and the circulation plan.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, that's an important element here, too. I think there's a lot you can do with landscaping to beautify a site, rather than just, kind of throw something at it. I think if you really put a good landscaping plan together, I know the planning department's excellent at working on those things. I really hope that you consider their suggestions and put a landscaping plan on this site that's going to make it conducive with the neighborhood and the fact that there's the soccer fields right there and everything. Dumpster, is there a dumpster location on there? Right back there? Enclosed. Okay. I like the idea of the Welcome to Middlesex Village sign somewhere on this site. That would be great. Are you going to be removing, how many trees will you be removing from this site? There's quite a few trees.
I don't think we have an answer right now in terms of that. We can get that for the next hearing.
Okay. I think it would be nice if we could create some kind of screening along the side there for both your site as well as the soccer field site. Right now, it's pretty, when you're on that soccer field, it feels like you're set back from Middlesex Street completely, and you kind of lose the fact that you're close to a busy street. I'm worried that by opening that up so much, that you're going to make it feel like you're on the soccer field, you're playing on Middlesex Street. So I think there's a lot you could do with trees to screen that. I hope that would be considered in your plan. The other question I had was about you know, the aesthetics of the building. Mr. Frichette brought that up. Sounds like you're going to go back to the drawing board on that, so that's good news. And what about signage? Is there, other than the signage that's shown on the building, is there going to be any signage proposed for the property?
Yes, there's a freestanding sign called out on the plan at the intersection right there.
Do you have a picture of that or anything, or what that would look like?
Not at this time.
Okay. And finally, you had mentioned about the area that is going to be, sounds like it's city property, where the drainage is going to be, that's currently used as parking for the Edward Street field. Sounds like that's city property that you're proposing the city change the grade of it to help with the water runoff. Can you just explain that?
Yes, the area that we were talking about is right here, and I think that's something that we would just like to continue the discussions on. Obviously, Mr. Kaufman just reminded me to make it clear to the board and to the neighbors, as well as to the youth soccer folks, that our drainage we handle entirely on site. So we're not increasing any runoff that goes off of our property.
Mm-hmm.
All of the runoff for the development is intended to remain on the Walgreens parcel. Additionally, the other area that we were talking about of relocated Edwards, that's what we were proposing to do at grade around the rear here. There are other options that we can do that will achieve the same goal of not increasing any runoff associated with the relocation of Edwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think Mr. Elliott brought up some very valid concerns about parking at that Edward Street field, and I can attest personally to the fact that it's a very difficult challenge to find adequate parking there. So anything that's going to take away from the parking at that field now is really is frowned upon, I believe. In fact, if there's some way that you could consider working with the Lowell Youth Soccer Association to maybe expand the parking or help with the parking situation, that's something that would really be welcomed. I think that, maybe there's some way we can, I don't know, maybe we can do something with the lot that exists to make the parking, to increase the parking, maybe expand it a little bit. I don't know if there's something you can do with your design that might positively impact Lowell Youth Soccer parking in that site, but that would be something that I'd like you to consider, is how can we definitely not remove parking, but is there something we can do with this site plan that would actually make the parking situation better there? Mr. Chairman, those are the comments I have for right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gentleman. Mr. Lockhart, any questions, concerns?
Yes, I do. We've been presented with a great deal of data and even backup data on gap analysis and other things in this document provided by Vanessa and Associates. And I'm interested in, Eric, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm interested in your general level of comfort with what you're seeing here, just to, give us a feeling for where you are coming from, how you feel about what you're looking at.
Yeah, I reviewed the initial study, and we've gone back and forth with comments, and they responded to them, and they met with us last week. They've made quite an effort to address all the comments that we've had. They've done considerable amount of work to, improving flow and traffic flow and restrictions on the right-in, right-out driveway, and moving the driveways to address the concerns we've had. They really, I have a fairly comfort level with it. I mean, it's done professionally, it's quality work. They haven't cut any corners. I mean, the concerns that are still out there are, the valve, the right-in, right-out. It's, no matter what you do with a right-in, right-out driveway, somebody's gonna be able to make a left turn. It's, you can do as much as you can to prohibit that, but those concerns will still exist to some degree. They're providing, as much storage as they can and the improvements that they can and they are improving the traffic operations over what's out there today. So they are addressing the impacts of their project.
So overall, you're reasonably comfortable with what you see?
Overall, yes, I'm comfortable with what they've presented so far.
Okay, thank you. I see two potential areas there that, I'm very uncomfortable with that entrance on the corner, as Mr. Frechette and Mr. Gendron are. Somewhere in your documentation, you reference the ability, or what you're going to try to do to discourage people from coming out there is to, through signage, direct people to the left and go out onto the Edwards Street exit. And I really question your ability to be able to do that with signage in a busy area. I'm really opposed to that location, as my colleagues are. I think it needs to be addressed. The second area is out on Edwards Street itself. You indicated it's been widened. Can you just explain a little bit how that's going to work? You got 2 lanes coming out and 1 going in, is that correct, on the right?
That's correct. We are widening out Edward Street from the original proposal to show basically, as you look at the alignment, probably just about from this point here, you can see, as you come around this 90-degree turn, you can see the curb line slides towards the project site itself. And by doing that, what we're able to do is create a separate left turn and a right turn lane as you're heading south towards Middlesex Street that will extend several hundred feet towards the northern entrance, northern driveway into the project. So we have 2 lanes coming out and a single 20-foot lane that tapers to 12 feet at this area here going in. So you have 2 lanes heading southbound towards Middlesex Street, 1 lane heading northbound towards the fields.
Okay. The widening of that street, there's a conflict in the documentation and the prints that we were provided, the larger size prints. One set of documentation said it went to 36 feet, and I think the drawing said it went to 38.
That's correct, yes. What we were
What's
doing.
correct, and that obviously has to be addressed.
The 38 feet gives us the ability to provide a shoulder in the area, and so that's what we were trying to accomplish. 36 feet gives us basically 3 12-foot travel lanes. So what we wanted to do is, the additional shoulder area gives us the room for the pedestrians and bicycle accommodations that we heard are important, not just for our site, but also for the playing fields.
Okay, I do think also that the architecture of the building has to be looked at. There's enough concern within the neighborhood there to, that should be addressed. And I look on this project as, it could be a catalyst for further development, and it could clean the area up. There are some other things going on over there too. But I think the architecture, the proper amenities there could really add to the project and add to the neighborhood. And I too would like to see as requested, the Middlesex Village, another sign somewhere that the neighborhood group there is looking for. I think that would be very helpful in making the whole project work. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, if I may just interject 1 second. I just wanted to make the board aware that Rebecca Brown from TEC is available to comment on the peer review analysis as well. If you wanted to hear some more background.
Anything further, Victor?
No, that's all for right now.
Okay. Mr. Claremont?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I appreciate all the effort that's gone into this application, all the work that's been done to get us to this point. I think certainly a lot of the comments we got from the neighbors were helpful as well in getting us to understand this. When it was first proposed, you say, well, something big going in at that intersection, you don't understand how it could happen because the traffic there is so bad to begin with. But along the way, we get some information that helps to mitigate that in my mind. First and foremost, I guess, even though that this is a terrible intersection traffic-wise, I understand that most of the people that would be going into that Walgreens are people that are going through that intersection anyway. And that kind of struck me when you did the pre-application. I forget what the percentage was, but the vast majority of people that are going to be going to that site are people that are going into that intersection anyway, so they would be not adding to the traffic woes. Certainly, a lot of the mitigation factors that have been suggested will help the situation. If it's not built, the situation is not going to be helped. We got the second worst intersection, it'll remain so. So I see it as an opportunity, if it's done correctly, to improve the intersection, make it safer. I don't know if it's ever going to be a great intersection. There's just too much traffic, and you got limitations with the Rourke Bridge as to how much traffic can go over that at any one time. So you're facing some limitations. But that being said, I think that a lot is being done to try and mitigate those things and get this site to work. I do have some specific questions concerning, that the entrance and exit that seems to concern most people along the Rourke Bridge. And in just going through the new maps that were provided to us tonight, indicate that is the WD-50, or is that the tractor trailer that's most commonly used for deliveries? Without that entrance and exit, it wouldn't be able to get around the building, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I noticed one of the plans provided to us tonight, Figure 1B, shows a different delivery truck, much smaller than that. Is that?
Yeah, that would be like a Coke and Pepsi type of truck, non-articulated, but a single unit box type of truck.
I guess my question is there an opportunity to not use a WB-50, or is that what has to deliver to these sites?
The WB-50 is for Walgreens deliveries. That's basically the smallest size truck. That's what they use in urban areas to deliver all of the Walgreens product.
If that entrance were not to be utilized, could the fire truck still get through the site properly?
Yes, a fire truck can turn in a very tight radius for the same reasons. They need to be able to maneuver down alleyways and things in an urban environment. So they have a much tighter turning radius than a truck.
All right, so it's just primarily, well, it's just the
semi-tractor trailer.
Just throw it out as an idea. I don't particularly like it, but a gate rather than an entrance, and get to utilize that as an opportunity for a delivery truck to get in and out of. How often do they deliver there? Typical day or week, or if anyone knows?
A couple times a
week. So, we're talking about an entrance that maybe would only be absolutely necessary 2 times a week. So, just a thought that you might want to consider. We've got a lot of information about the traffic impact. I know that the applicant did their own traffic study early on. We've got the synopsis dated April of 2010. Based upon that, the city had TEC, who I understand is here as well, review that and provide their comments. A lot of suggestions by letter dated January 1, 2011, and also our traffic engineer reviewing that traffic study, having his own suggestions dated April 8th, 2011, with a lot of comments that I know were incorporated into the most recent traffic report provided by Vanessa. And this information that we got May 4th seems to incorporate most, if not all, of the suggestions that were made by the peer review consultant and also by our own traffic engineer. But there was one area that I just wanted to comment on, and that's the comment 23, which was on page 11 of the most recent report from Vanessa. The comment 23 said that the improvements proposed by the applicant sufficiently mitigate the impacts of the proposed Walgreens pharmacy, with the exception of the following: a drop in LOS from C to E is expected on the Middlesex Street eastbound approach to the intersection with Wood Street between the no-build and the build mitigated conditions. Additional signal timing modifications may be necessary to improve the operations of this movement. Traffic exiting Edward Street will experience long delays and queues under build mitigated conditions. Additional improvements may be necessary to reduce such delays and queuing. And the response by Vanessa was that the proposed traffic signal timing improvements at the Middlesex Street, Wood Street, Rourke Bridge intersection have been revised to address the noted drop for Middlesex Street eastbound approach, such that operating conditions will be the same or improved over no-build conditions. The planned design of relocated Edward Street has been revised to provide separate left and right turn lanes approaching Middlesex Street, thereby reducing both motorist delays and vehicle queuing. So as I read through all the traffic information, it seemed to me that with all of the traffic improvements that they were proposing, that even after the site was built, that according to the studies, the traffic would improve except for these two specific areas. Is that a correct assessment? Eric, maybe I could ask you.
I think there was, that was a TEC comment. Would you like to have her respond to that, or I could?
Well, this comment, was that a TEC or?
I think that was the last one. That was the last one of TEC.
All right, maybe I could have her comment on that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We don't want you to come for nothing, so.
For the record, I'm Rebecca Brown with TEC. To respond to your question about that, VA has provided some updated analysis since then, which does actually show an improvement in the levels of service overall at the intersection. There is still a drop in level of service from a D to an E for one of the movements from no build to build based on the updated information that they did provide to us, but some of the other movements got considerably better to the point where we feel they can make some slight adjustments and reduce or get the levels of service back to a D on that movement as well. As far as at the Edward Street intersection, by providing separate left and right turn lanes, they've addressed that concern as far as having long delays and queues coming out of Edward Street.
So you've had an opportunity, obviously, to look over the latest information, May 4th.
We have, yes, and we actually submitted comments to the city on Friday on their updated information, which I understand that was just given to VAI tonight, so they haven't had an opportunity to look over those additional comments yet.
So perhaps we'll wait to get those comments back to comment further. But overall, having reviewed all of this information material, do you feel comfortable making an assessment as to the traffic conditions, build or no build?
Yeah, overall, I think they've addressed most all of our concerns. The one concern, there was a few discrepancies between their updated report that they submitted and what was on the plan, so those will still need to be addressed. But obviously, the right-in, right-out is still a concern. Not so much with the right-in, but with the right-out at that location because of the proximity to the signal. One thing that we asked that they take a look at was having a truck actually rather than making a left in onto Edward Street and circulating counterclockwise around the site, that it makes a right in from Middlesex Street into that right in driveway and then go clockwise around the back of the building, come out onto Edward Street and out that way as another opportunity to get a truck around the building and not need to use that right out at that location. So that was really our main concern. And then the other issue we had identified was with the reconfigured drive-through, that they just show that a passenger vehicle can exit out of there efficiently.
And that's in your latest comments?
That was in the latest comments, yeah. And the other comments are more minor about some discrepancies on the plans and,
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's, I think, very helpful, and, you know, I think once we get those comments and some of the other information back, we'll be in a better position to move forward.
I think the plan's only gotten better, let me put it that way, in terms of, and I think you've seen that. I mean, there's work to do, but I think the comments that we've got have been very valuable in shaping the plan.
I have one other question, and it relates back to early on. You're talking about the fact that your drainage is all contained on your site, so there's really no issue with what's going on behind there with the city, but you'd like an opportunity perhaps in the future to work with them to get an easement to provide some drainage, but that would require, I guess, putting some sort of a swale or something in there to deal with some drainage, which would necessarily lose some parking spaces, which we don't want to do. Given the site as is, with just Walgreens taking care of their own drainage, is there an issue just maintaining the parking on that gravel site as is? Is that a problem? Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I just have a couple of questions. I mean, obviously, the main concern here has been traffic. I think that's the first thing that came to our attention when this site first came before us. We did have a preliminary plan on the matter, and the traffic was a concern, and we did get the report. That's why the board requested we have an outside agency look at the matter. So, I mean, the part that a lot of the board members have is the question with the right-hand turn going out to Bridge Street. You know, we brought that up at the preliminary plan. So, if I understand correct, you don't want the right-hand turn going out, I mean, towards the bridge onto Rock Street for the cars, but it's okay for your tractor-trailer to do it, right?
No, we're saying we need, one of the reasons we have to have it is because that's the way that the trucks circulate. So if we were, with the site as currently configured, in order for the Walgreens truck to get in, to get out of the site, it needs to have that driveway. In terms of the cars, what we're saying is that there's no safety issues with respect to a car that wants to turn right and go over the Rourke Bridge itself.
So if you have a car coming out of there, right, and now that car doesn't want to go over the Rourke Bridge. So it's going to either have to come into the traffic lane
Right.
to go straight, okay? And then if it wants to go left, it have to work its way all the way over to the left lane to go. And that's why I think we talked about there might be some traffic backing it up. I mean, if that car doesn't take the right lane, to try to get into the middle lane or the far left-hand lane is gonna create congestion, correct? To get over to the middle lane and the out lane?
From a practical perspective, everything that we've heard here tonight and even the traffic analysis says that this is going to back up past that driveway. So if you're coming out of this driveway here, I think unless it's under extraordinary circumstances, the traffic is going to be queued right past that driveway. Most motorists.
Coming in this way, so it's not
Yeah,
gonna cross
the
there?
traffic, when this light turns red, the traffic is going to back right up past that driveway. We've sized the queuing lanes here to get to a point where that queue from that through travel lane gets back to about here, and someone could still get in this lane to go over the bridge or get into the left turn lane. So what you can see is it's going to back up past that driveway almost all the time. So as traffic tries to come out of here, you're going to be facing a queue. Most people are not going to try to shoot across those lanes of traffic. If someone is going to try to do that, it's going to be basically a stopped condition. If they do, yes, they're going to block traffic. So most people are going to see that sign, they're going to see the queue, we're going to come out by way of Edward Street. But you're right, if somebody does try to do that, and if somebody does try to get into that lane,
It's gonna back
they're either, it's going to back up. They're going to block the traffic to get out of it. That's correct.
But your tractor-trailer, your WD-50 is going to be coming out of there and cutting across.
It has to.
Section, take a left.
With the site the way it's currently designed, and I stress that, as currently laid out, that's the only
Now,
way it works. Right.
As Ms. Brown indicated, there might be a way to have the tractor-trailer go around the site differently. Could you comment on that?
Yes. Well, the first thing is the truck has to physically be able to get there to make that maneuver. So if you imagine, how is the truck going to get to the point where it can travel westbound? It's got to drive through the downtown area to physically get there. So you think about all the turning maneuvers it has to make at all the intersections to physically get to this point. That's going to be a lot of delay and more difficult for the truck to get here from that direction versus coming from Drum Hill, coming up Route 3, getting off at Drum Hill, and coming into the site from Wood Street. That's the way that most of the trucks access this area. And so, in Market Basket, the rest of the So that's the way the truck's getting here. So it's not going to be making this right-hand turn, it's going to be coming in and making the left, because from a trucker's perspective, that's the easiest way, the safest way for them to get to service this site.
So if it came, as you indicated before, the same traffic pattern, coming up, okay, and taking the right,
Yes.
okay? So instead of going in, going in the first intersection, where you are right now, could the tractor-trailer go in that way?
It needs to get back to the loading dock area here. So could it come in this way? We can look at it. I don't think it can make the turns that are required to get back here and then get into position.
Because as of now, which way do you have them enter?
Right now, we've got them coming in this back entrance.
So they're coming in this
and then they get into the
Edward
loading
Street
area.
direction, but you want them to go out?
And then they come around the building here and come out this entrance. The truck can probably make this turn, but the issue is, it's not that turn, it's the quick right.
Okay.
It's a quick right and then another quick right. And as you imagine, the rear wheels of the trailer are trying to swing around. For that to happen, it would need to go to some of the suggestions that I've had in looking at the building, to get more room so it can swing wide and make those turns.
Gentlemen, if I can just interject a point here. My name is Jeff Kaufman. I own Kaufman Realty. Excuse me. My son Michael, I believe, came before you folks 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, as a preliminary meeting. And everybody was talking about this right turn out on Middlesex. And we clearly got the message from this board that they don't want to see that right turn out there. We went to our tenant Walgreens. Pardon me, but Walgreens for us drives the bus. Walgreens said to us emphatically, without that right turn out on Middlesex, they will not do this deal. Our goal is to work with you, the planning board members, the city of Lowell, their peer traffic engineer, Jeff Dirk, and our engineers to develop this site. I think we've committed $300,000 to improvements at the Middlesex Wood Street intersection. I think I heard a few minutes ago, overall, with the Walgreens development, that intersection, which I clearly understand how bad it is, how many accidents that there are, is going to be improved. We heard one of the gentlemen talk about extending the Rock Bridge right turn lane only further back. I believe we looked at that, and if we did that, we would lose all of our front yard space. And I don't know that it's smart to lose all the front yard space and have no room for landscaping that everybody's looking for. Again, our challenge is to work with you, the planning board members, to make this site plan work for the neighborhood. We're very willing to work to make this building architecturally as pleasing as it can be, do the improvements at the intersection, do more landscaping, which I heard people ask for, be sensitive to the soccer fields. But we gotta understand, we have to have that right turn out. We gotta have our traffic engineers work with the city traffic engineers and do it so it's safe. And if it can't be done, I'm sorry, we're done. Because Walgreens won't let us go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, sir, just a couple of comments that I would echo what you said is, obviously, the fact that they're improving that intersection is a big, big, big improvement for the city of Lowell. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we've looked at this site back in '06 when they went to do the development of the condos on the other set of those set of lights. And at that point in time, the engineer, traffic engineer, and the applicant's engineer came up, talked about making improvements. That development didn't get built, it got approved eventually, and as a result, those improvements didn't help the intersection, and now today it's not any better. So we definitely like the fact, at least I do personally, and it sounds like our own traffic engineer, the fact is to improve that intersection. There's no doubt it's a bad intersection, and I honestly believe a lot of it is because we're limited with the work bridge. There's no doubt about it. There's something on that temporary work bridge that was put on let's put it this way, I was on the planning board when it came on, so it was a long time ago. And we had the questions then, it's temporary, what can we do about it? And the state says, there's nothing you can do about it. We talked about taking, Arthur Ham was the chairman, the land on the other side of the bridge, the land on this side where the soccer fields were, all those questions come up. The state said, we're gonna handle it, and those other issues, you don't have much to do about it. We're taking it down, we're building it. We asked how long it'd be, well, hopefully we'll fix it shortly. I mean, so I know this whole thing is really limited on the traffic problem because of Brook Bridge. And we all basically know that's not gonna change. So the main question is, how do we improve it? So you know, a lot of work has gone into the traffic, and I mean, it's trying to read all this. I mean, it might be easier for yourself and Mr. Gomes and Ms. Brown, but for us, we can read it, and I don't think I know how many times I've read right turn in, left turn out, easterly, westerly side. So I mean, our main goal is to try to make it safe if need be, and I go along with a lot of the plans. I mean, some of the plans we just got today, so, and Division of Planning Development got them, so I'm not gonna even address the lighting, the landscaping, the snow storage, you know, and some of the other questions that they brought up. I know one of the other questions they brought up was some of the curbing to the right of the site next to one of the new neighbors, I believe, which was in one of the traffic things on, they were talking about some curbing to one of the restaurants to the right to build that out so traffic wasn't heading in. You know what I'm talking about? I think it was one of the Soup Bowl restaurants or something.
Middlesex Street.
They had a comment or not. Let me see if I can find that in your review here. You know which one I'm talking about there? One second, let me just finish, okay? All right. There was a comment on, where was the one of them, talked about,
Was it with respect to the crosswalk and?
yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah, down where the restaurant is.
Yeah, the crosswalk, originally we tried to locate, the ideal location for a crosswalk is right here at the intersection, because what we're trying to do is get the crossing for the neighborhood area over into the park. Right in the corner here, very quickly after this corner, there's a driveway, and there's little pieces of sidewalk that exist, and then it ramps down to another driveway. Anyways, we looked at this location here, and you could not construct a crosswalk with the appropriate wheelchair ramp at this location because of the utilities that exist there and just the physical depth of what we would have to physically come back up onto the sidewalk and then turn a wheelchair to go in the right direction. So the closest place we were able to achieve it is down in this location here, just off the plan, and that's where the Super Bowl restaurant was. And there was some question about the reveal on the curb, whether we could actually get 6-inch reveal to protect pedestrians and then ramp up, do all those ramping issues. We did look at that, and there is sufficient room to be able to do that in the area in question in this area. So the other part of that was that the Super Bowl restaurant's parking goes right up against the back of the sidewalk, and if that's flush with the sidewalk, what's stopping a pedestrian or a car from backing into that area there? As we looked at it, the parking is actually right up against the face of the building, so it's not against where the sidewalk area is. But what we suggested is that as we're building the wheelchair ramp, we could actually put a curb at the back of the sidewalk, so you'd have a 6-inch curb protecting the pedestrians from Middlesex Street traffic, and at the back of the sidewalk to protect the pedestrians from the cars, we could put another curb there, 6-inch reveal, just like a curb stop would be, so the cars wouldn't roll back into that.
Right. Thank you. Yes, sir, what was your comment? If you want to tap the microphone, if you would, please.
One solution here would be to cut the building down by 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. When Walgreens at the corner of Plain Street and Chelmsford Street was originally built, it was 10,000 square feet. And then they knocked it down to build a bigger Walgreens. Not every Walgreens has to be 14,820 square feet. You would solve most of your problems by making the building a little smaller. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So just getting back to a couple of comments I was going to say, I know a lot of the information has been given to us recently. A lot of it does have to deal with some of the traffic concerns that you haven't had a chance to respond back to. So I think those are some concerns that I think would need more time on to have you comment in regards to future comments. And obviously, I think the concerns are pretty clear about a couple of the issues, and one being that right turn out towards Bridge Street. I think if you can't make the loop the other way as recommended by TEC, to look at it that way. The other question is, if that has to go for your tractor trailer, whether you gate it, baluster it, something just for the tractor trailer. I mean, in the past, we've had situations where, you know, they put up a chain, and we've talked to the fire department, they said, chain's no problem, we cut them. I mean, but if that was something just to make, and I know if you tractor deliveries, you can control when they come, so you're not hitting peak traffic.
Correct, yes.
I mean, you don't want them coming to peak traffic. They're gonna be
Right,
sitting
they-
there forever.
they don't wanna be
You know,
either.
you can come after hours, when there's not soccer games involved on Saturday morning, whether it be first thing Monday morning or late Monday night, and I know you have control of that. We've had great success with other developers where they've told us they will not have trucks cut through city neighbors, and people were apprehensive about that. But I'll tell you, we've had word from people, Demoulas did it, and they don't cut through Clark Road. Mike Demoulas told us, when they build that Demoulas on the bottom of Clark Road, you will not see any of my trucks go up Clark Road. I live in that neighborhood, those trucks do not go up Clark Road. If they do, they don't come back to Demoulas. It's very clear by that operation. Everybody's apprehensive about it. Mr. Flood remembers when it came in, they don't go up. Mr. Flood lives in the neighborhood, they just don't go up there. They're not allowed to. So, and I know what you're saying, you're coming in off the highway, you want to get the closest off highway access to the site and out so you don't interfere with the neighbors. And the neighbors don't want those big trucks in the neighborhood. So I think considerations still have to be given for that site. They're coming out, take the right. I know people have made comments on that. I think you're hearing stuff on that, so I'd be willing to, you know, let you work further with the peer review and our traffic engineer to see what resolutions you can come up with. But I know a lot of work has gone into it, and it has come a long way since we saw it at the pre-application stage. So I do give you a lot of credit, and I give the neighborhood credits for coming out, and I think some of the suggestions that you did propose that are in here, which I won't get into right at this point in time, for the city ideas to help cut down the neighborhood cut-through could be enforced and help cut that down. I know we did discuss them at that preliminary plan. So at this point in time, I have no further comments. Any other board members have any comments on the discussion? Mr. Fischett?
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification, and Mr. Kaufman emphatically said that, and I don't believe that, you don't have an actual Walgreens representative here this evening, or?
We do not, no.
No, okay. I know like Lowell's had an actual representative, but yeah, I think it was emphatic that there's no compromise on the right hand out, and I think Mr. Dirth indicated, rightfully so, that then we'll go back and take a look at it, see what is the position. I mean, is it you're really going to be able to go back and take a good look at it, or are you not going to go back and be able to take a good look at it?
After the meeting that my group had with the planning board, the informal meeting, actually Michael went back to the real estate director who's in charge of this area. And it took Walgreens probably a month to 6 weeks to go through what they have to go through to make their decision regarding the right out onto Middlesex Street. And they came back, and we have an email from them, and we're happy to share it with you. If they don't get the right turn out, they don't do the deal. It's, pardon me, that simple. Walgreens is the 500-pound gorilla that we have to deal with. You folks don't have to. We have to. The Walgreens did tell us, by the way, that at the next meeting, or 2 meetings from now, that they would send in an operations person to make sure there's clarity on when do their trucks come, that the trucks won't be in the neighborhood, how the trucks will get through the neighborhood, time of day for deliveries, etc. How Walgreens will work with the community. But the real estate director, I'm sorry, but told us emphatically, if they can't get that right turn out, they don't want to do the deal. And they have the right within our lease to do that. We're building the building, we're paying for it, we're trying to collect rent from Walgreens, but they have the right to terminate our lease if we don't get that right turn out.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure we were clear on that. Thank you.
And Mr. Gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to say I can appreciate the efforts by the applicant to work with the neighborhood and to work with the city to help with that intersection. I do think there's an opportunity for a win-win here for everybody, and I hope we can work toward that. However, you know, the situation is that this project brings a lot more traffic into an intersection that's already terrible by all standards. So I think it's a fair thing for the city to ask for the developer to invest some money in the intersection to improve it, and we appreciate that. I thought that the traffic engineer had a terrific suggestion of make it a right turn in only and let the truck go around in the other direction. Maybe Walgreens didn't think of that, but my feeling is that if it doesn't work without a right turnout lane, then it doesn't work. Maybe the site isn't right for the Walgreens. So I think you need to go back and try to come up with something that eliminates that lane. I understand what the chairman's saying about the gate, and that can work, but that can be problematic because now you got to monitor that the gate's closed when it should be closed and open when it should be open. So I have personally a few concerns about that. But I'd like to see you go back and see if you can come up with another plan that works, because I have concerns about that right turnout, and I think they're verified by our peer review on the traffic. So, I hope that you can go back to them and see if you can come up with another approach.
We will go back to Walgreens. We will report to them about how this meeting went tonight. I hate to repeat myself, but I just feel compelled to do it but one more time. They want their customers to be able to go out that right turn, whether it's to go over the Rourke Bridge or to exit their site using that right turn out. Perhaps when Edward Street is clogged with the soccer moms, I'm not exactly sure. Michael and I are going to see the Walgreens folks, next week, and we're going to report to them what's happened. But they already gave us the message once. The message will be the same. I think our job, Jeff Dirk's job, is to work with your staff and your outside consultants to make that right turn exit work and work safely. If we're willing to put the kind of improvements that we're willing to put into the intersection, we would also like to think that there's some give on the part of the city of Lowell to make this project work.
So I think there's been a lot of give on the city of Lowell to make the project work. The city's abandoned the street. The city sold the land. The city's done an awful lot. But I don't see it working with that right turnout. So maybe it's not appropriate.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, as well, I would like to add, I would hope you would see your job as well, because what I heard it was one-sided, is to work with the city and the consultants to make that left-hand out work. I would implore you to also see your duty to try to persuade Walgreens to see that the site can work and work very well without the right turnout in that location. And perhaps they can see it as beneficial to be somewhat flexible on that particular issue. So again, in the interest of making it all work, I would hate to see you leave here with just the resolve that Walgreens has put their feet in cement on this, and it's up to us to give on it. And I think if you can make it very clear how that was a key spot. I think it's supported by the peer review as well. I think they're valid concerns. I think there's other sites. I mentioned the CVS. Go take a look at it on Broadway Road and Drake it. They wanted a similar type of exit, and they didn't get it that way. Matter of fact, they only got a right-hand entrance, and it was further away from the intersection, and then to exit, you have to go, they changed the whole entrance to the plaza. I go there every day. So, and I talked to the planning board out there in Drake it as well. So, I mean, this is not unprecedented, what we're looking for here, not at all, and especially for this type of intersection, so.
I agree, sir, and not to beat a dead horse, but in my career, I've built over 70 pharmacies throughout New England, many for Walgreens, many for CVS. This situation is not unusual, and we've gotten what Walgreens is asking for in other cities as well. You know, again, it's Jeff Dirk's job to work with your peer reviewer and work with your staff and come up with a safe solution to that right turn out. Right. We will talk to Walgreens next week and see if we can convince them otherwise.
Maybe you're not hearing us. I mean, I think you got to find a way to eliminate the right turn out. And if you can't do it, then I'm sorry. So please don't leave here and try to come back with a safe solution for that right turn out. What you need to leave here with is a way to make the project work without it. And I don't know how I can say that any more clear. And I don't need you to hear you say that again. I'm just telling you, I can't speak for the entire board, but that's certainly my stance. Eliminate it, or else, it's not going to get approved.
I understand, sir.
Any further discussion with board members?
I have one question.
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Kaufman. The Walgreens personnel and their planners, real estate group, familiar with the history of this intersection and its complexity from a traffic standpoint?
They
Do
are,
understand what,
they are not as familiar as you are, sir.
I would suggest that you might educate them as to the safety hazards that are present over here, and I think if they really understand it as we do, and our traffic engineer and personnel and DPD do, that they might consider something else as well.
We will talk to them next week.
Thank you.
So at this point in time, I believe that we should have a motion in order. I believe maybe if we could continue the matter to a future date, to put all the comments together, have Mr. Kaufman go back to Walgreens, obviously have the city traffic engineer look over the comments that were given to them through traffic study that was done, and also by the TEC as well. So maybe, Mr. Flood, if we did continue, how much time do you think would be appropriate to come back?
Well, I'd like to continue to the next meeting, which is 3 weeks, I think.
All right, which is, what, June 6th?
I think that's what it is.
Would that be enough time?
I hope so.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we continue the matter to June 6th for further public hearing and comments as addressed by people here this evening as well as board members.
Second?
Motion made and second.
Mr. Chairman, before we vote on it, could we add to that specify that we like to see a detailed update on the traffic flow as well as landscaping plan?
I think those are, the
And-
landscaping's been submitted, right? We just haven't seen them yet.
Aaron,
Well-
I think Aaron said he got them today, but he hadn't had a chance to comment on them, right? So we'd have all those comments for the next meeting, Aaron, right?
That's
correct.
So I'm assuming, though, that, what about the aesthetics of the building? You haven't seen any
Yeah.
updates on that?
Oh, no, not from the comments from the neighborhood organization. What we have for the building and architecture is what you've seen with the rendering tonight.
Right, so I understood that there was going to be a review of the aesthetics of the building. The landscape plan, if that has to be amended to support some type of different traffic flow on the site, then obviously we want to see a final landscape plan, and then, of course, the traffic flow plan as well.
Motion made in second. All in favor of aye? Aye. The matter will be continued to, on the opposition, to June 6th for further public hearing. I want to thank everybody who came down this evening. Appreciate it. And our traffic engineer and that peer review as well. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your help. Moving along, we have a continuation on 106 Marginal Street, the project status and alterations. Veracity Development LLC received site plan approval with conditions for a proposed apartment building located at 106 Marginal Street during the March 16, 2009 Planning Board meeting. The applicant will provide an overview of the project status and alterations based on a proposed change of use from apartment building to dormitory serving UMass Lowell students. This matter was before us at the last meeting. We received some materials, and we asked to put over to tonight's meeting to digest some of those materials. We did receive new materials tonight from Attorney Flood, and as that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
I think I sent you the letter from the university that's indicated that negotiations are underway, and they intend to take over the whole operation of the building as a dormitory in conjunction with the operation of UMass Lowell. So I think Jerry wanted to look at some things in the interim, and I think that with the university taking it over, we meet the spirit of the zoning ordinance, and hopefully you'll agree and give us the okay to proceed.
So basically with the letter, I just had one question. I think that will meet the criteria that they'll have people in the dorms. I think you need, what, one person per 50 under our regulations, like for us, like a student resident per se?
Whatever the university's procedure is, they're going to have them there, because they're going to run the whole operation, just like a dorm.
Yeah, I think in our dorm review code.
One per 35.
Yeah, I think in our review code it has to be so many per students.
One per 35, Chip tells me.
Yeah.
But I think that we're not going to change the building at all. It's going to be as originally approved. And I think there's no question in that decision, there was an anticipation that it eventually would be, so.
And I think the biggest comments we had last time that you presented to us is that you did get that easement over the railroad track.
Yeah, we did get it, right. And I think I gave you that.
Yeah, we do have that. I believe we had that at the last meeting, which.
It was all subject to that anyway, so.
And I mean.
Intend to do it.
I believe when we came in the first time for the dorms, that was something that you were working on, and then when that project stopped and you came in for the apartments, that was no longer a viable issue, and I know that was something that the board was really hopeful would work, instead of making the people go through the neighborhood, I believe.
Yeah, you wanted us to put a gate at the end.
I
You'd have
remember
to
the
walk
gate.
down
Yeah, that
through Marginal Street and then up.
Yeah, which street was that? I'm trying to think of it was.
That's Marginal, it goes up, and then it goes up to School Street.
And I know we talked about the gate area, but obviously with that over the railroad tracks, and maybe into that parking lot with the busing and everything else, would take the students to North-South campus as well, and that had a big impact. I know a lot of the board members had comments how disappointed we were that couldn't be done to go over those railroad tracks.
Well, with the legislation passed now and in this letter, it's moving forward. And I think there's no question the university needs some more dorms, so we're hoping that you'll agree.
Mr. Chairman, if I may just have a couple questions. So
Sure, absolutely.
just from the conditions of approval, then, Mr. Flood, is the condition number 2 then with the gate, is that something that would not, you would not be moving forward with that?
Well, I don't have a problem with the
Putting
gate.
the gate as well, okay.
We don't have a problem with the gate. Huh? Yeah,
You're good,
there's no
okay.
problem with the gate at all.
Yep, okay. And then, so really, I have to agree in looking at all the, the notes that I had from prior meetings that, because what we're looking to determine here is whether there's been material change.
That'd be our
to-
first vote,
Yeah,
correct.
exactly, right.
If it's not a material change, then we can vote on it. If the material change, then it'd have to come back for a public hearing.
Sure, sure. Certainly, I'm comfortable with, Mr. Chairman, with the fact that, matter of fact, in our approval, we tried to word this in anticipation of hopefully becoming primarily dorm housing. So I certainly, if there's no objection, I'd make a motion that, that there is no, it is not, the changes are not material that exist before us.
Okay, any further discussion or a second on that?
I'll second.
Motion section, that there's no material change. Any comments from board members?
I just had one question. So is this going to be a situation where you lease the facility to UMass Lowell?
Right.
And how long term on the lease
How
will
long
there
is
be?
the term you're talking about? 20 years.
20?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So at the end of the lease, if for some reason UMass Lowell decided not to continue operating this as a dorm, you would still be under the,
Building.
and you wanted to operate it as a housing on your own, you'd still be under the conditions that were in the,
It was originally approved, but it's our hope they're going to buy it, so.
yeah, well, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on, that is not a material change. So can we have a vote on that matter? We have, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none. So now we have no material change. Next matter, we can move on and either make further approval with any further comments or whatever.
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the proposed change of use from apartment building to dormitory serving UMass students.
I'll second.
We have a motion made on that and second. Any discussion or vote? So can we have a vote on the, we have a motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none, the matter is approved. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Moving along, we had some notices from budding town. Entertain a motion, place those on file.
So move.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I didn't see any ZBA comments in the package, so I asked Aaron if he had a few, and he did bring some up. He thought we might have had them last time, but I don't recall these.
I don't,
So one of them is by Michael and Karen McCurry on 93 Buttman Road. It's a single-family home with an in-ground pool. They want to construct an in-ground pool with fence and a deck. So variance for relief of setback dimensional requirements. They seek the relief so they can install an in-ground pool. They live on a corner lot of Buttman and Mansa, so the side yard is considered a front yard for zoning purposes. And they state that the slope of the lot and soil conditions prevent the owners from locating the pool or near the other portion of the lot.
Chairman, I don't really understand the violation here. Aaron, can you explain that to us? Why is this, seems like something, looks like they have the setbacks from the street, from the house. What's the?
If I'm not,
If it's a corner lot, so they,
yeah,
it's a corner lot, they need the two front yards.
Yeah, so the pool is encroaching within the front yard setback.
Oh, because it's,
Corner, they have the two
it's a
front.
corner lot.
So Mansa is a front yard and Buttman is a front yard.
Okay.
5 feet.
So the front yard setback is greater than the side yard setback
little
because,
close.
So when you get the corner, you have to have it both. You have to use the greater of the two. So he would have it if he wasn't on the corner lot, but since he's on Mansa and he only has 5 feet back, that's a front lot. Right?
That's correct.
Right.
Chairman, so I think, you know, under the circumstances, I'm familiar with this lot and this neighborhood. That's, you know, I don't think that is, well, I don't think it's a big impact, personally. I guess this is one of those cases where it really depends on the feelings of the abutters. You know, my feeling is that, you know, that's going to be enclosed with a fence, and this house is clearly fronted on Buttman. You know, when you look at it, you know that house is on Buttman. It doesn't feel like that side yard is a front yard, so I think it's an appropriate use.
And I will add, it's one of the few real variance hardships. I mean, it's the topography of the site, so it's very rarely do we see someone requesting a variance that's the true definition.
Kids.
You have 5 kids, that's a hardship.
You figure each one of those has a friend.
Right, oh, yeah.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman, that we recommend approval.
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. We recommend approval on that matter. The other matter we have, it appears it's Family Dollar. It looks like this is for replacement sign, and this is on 1665 Middlesex Street, Lowell, Mass. Pylon to remain the same, new face, new wall sign with updated logos. Should we refer this to our sign design planner for the Family Dollar sign?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Anybody opposition? Hearing none. Having said that, moving along, any further correspondences from Division of Planning and Development before we get?
I think that's it. I can't think of any other projects that are coming before the board anytime soon.
Well, so 2 from tonight we'll have next meeting.
Yeah, other than, I almost
That's
said other than
enough.
the continue.
That's enough, I was worried.
You know, we can see if the people from Stedman Street are going to join us.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we reach out to them to
Yeah,
make sure they
I mean, you
understand.
know, this time we'll look, you know, if they thought it was inherently going to be continued, you know, future would be a letter, at least something, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
so, but besides that, do we have anything much else on June 6th? Now that we have these two on, which will be enough to keep us busy anyways.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Okay, any of the board members have any communications from other boards that they're on? If not, we can entertain a motion to adjourn. Made in second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Geez, I kind of felt like, better turn that up.